Great, thank you, Amy, and thanks everybody for settling down there so quickly. We'll get started on our P&Z meeting Tuesday, June 16th, 2026 at 6:06. Call to order.
Yes, Kyle Oberketter,
Here.
Rob Levitt,
Yes.
Cindy Hirschfield,
Here.
Mike Horvath,
Here.
Ben Firestein,
Here.
and Bill Marin, Eric Vozick, and Bob Kaplan are absent. You have a quorum. As the first item of business, since the chair and the vice chair are not here this evening, P&Z needs to elect a chair for the evening. Is there any motion to elect a chair?
Motion to elect Rob Levitt as chair.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Rob, you're the
All
chair.
right, thanks, guys. Let's get the party started. We start with a public hearing and introduction to 218 East Valley Road PUD amendments, site plan review, annexation amendments, associated development review actions.
Good
For the purpose of considering an application submitted by Bowtie Partners and Walsh Dupart for a 94-key hotel, 2 deed-restricted housing units, and associated infrastructure. Okay, Carlton?
Good evening, P&Z.
We can't hear.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No.
I can shout, but we have these mics.
One moment. Good evening, P&Z. My name is Carlton Henry, Planner 2 with the Town of Basalt. Here to introduce a public hearing and, as mentioned, an introductory meeting for a site plan review, special review, PUD amendment, housing mitigation report, and other associated development review actions for the redevelopment of a commercial site located at 218 East Valley Road within the Town of Basalt. The proposed redevelopment would occur on what is known as Lot 2A at 218 East Valley Road, distinct from the commercial condos on Lot 1. Walsh Dupart and Bowtie Partners, hereby known as the applicant, have applied for the aforementioned applications for land use and development review through the Town of Basalt to construct 2 deed-restricted for-rent residential units associated with the construction of a 94-key Residence Inn by Marriott hotel. Vicinity map has been included as part of the application this evening and is shown below for context. The site is located generally south of Highway 82, generally north of the Sopris Village PUD, and generally northwest of the City Market site within the Town of Basalt. Although the site is bounded on the western and southern boundaries by unincorporated Eagle County. For some background on the project, the subject property, formerly known as the Movieland movie theater site, is approximately 2.1 acres in size, is located at the northwest corner of Basalt. The property is identified as Lot 2A in the Old Orchard Plaza PUD, which is zoned PUD with an underlined zoning designation of C3 commercial. The applicant has proposed the construction of 2 residential units for rent of 553 square feet and 643 square feet respectively to be deed restricted at Category 2, totaling just under 1,200 square feet. 2 50 square foot private storage areas totaling 100 square feet are also proposed, meeting the private storage requirements in the community housing guidelines. The property does not currently contain any deed-restricted housing units on-site or any mitigation units off-site. The review process for this application requires a review from the Basalt Affordable and Community Housing Commission. BAC is a referral agency on any land use applications that provide deed-restricted housing or that require commercial mitigation. This committee is tasked with producing a recommendation to council regarding compliance with the housing guidelines and the land use code requirements related to housing. On June 11th of this year, BAC reviewed the application with consideration given to consistency with the master plan, the level of affordable housing mitigation, The proposed unit mix compliance with the minimum livability requirements found in the community housing guidelines, the proposed occupancy priorities, and storage and bicycle storage. Bach unanimously recommended approval of the application with the conditions that staff and the applicant address sound transmission at Planning and Zoning Commission, and that the applicant dedicate the most proximate parking spaces to the residential units for use by the residents should the development proposal go forward. Discussion was also given for note here at P&Z tonight. Discussion also occurred surrounding the location of the proposed units on the site, and Bach found the location after discussion to be appropriate. The proposed application requires review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and a recommendation to Town Council for a decision pursuant to Town Code Section 1665, Planned Unit Development Approval Procedures, and Town Code Section 1644, Special Review Application Requirements and Procedures. Staff will draft conditions for Planning and Zoning Commission for consideration and discussion at a future meeting. Town Council will be the deciding body. Staff is recommending continuation of the application this evening and taking the time to discuss this application and have P&Z ask questions of the applicant as well as hear public comment. As you'll see, there are several people in the room this evening for this application. Discussion items that staff would like to note for Planning and Zoning Commission include consistency with the master plan. Staff has included a number of goals and objectives related to the housing proposed as part of this application. Staff would also recommend that P&Z review and discuss the level of affordable housing mitigation. I'll just note briefly that the applicant has proposed 2 residential units to be deed restricted, category 2, with the priority given to employees of the hotel development associated with this development proposal. The applicant has proposed alternative employee generation calculation as part of this application. And I'll just make a quick note on that. Town Code Section 16417 allows applicants to provide alternative employee generation should the town's standard commercial calculation be inappropriate for the application. The town's employee generation calculation is based on retail, commercial, and after discussion with the applicant believes that less than 4 employees per 1,000 square feet will be generated as part of this application, and has been an alternative compliance has been provided and included as part of the packet materials this evening. Town staff would also recommend that Planning and Zoning Commission review the unit mix proposed as part of this application. Compliance with the minimum livability requirements, as noted, Bach did unanimously approve the application for compliance with the livability requirements. The applicant has proposed alternative compliance for private open space in the form of combined private open space for the residential portion of the project. As noted, the occupancy priorities have been proposed to be changed with priority given to employees of the hotel. No other changes to the community housing priorities are proposed as part of this application. The applicant has met the required storage and bike storage for the residential portion of this application. And then staff would also note that the applicant has requested a mixed-use parking reduction of 18.2%, with 6 fewer parking spaces than required on site, and then already on the site 12 spaces are required to be dedicated to the adjacent property. So there's already there's already a parking sharing agreement on site that will need to be respected. A number of annexation and PUD agreement amendments are proposed as part of this application, including change to the maximum height as approved in the planned unit development agreement and annexation agreements, a deferral to the town's C3 zoning district for the floor area standards, and town staff would request that Planning and Zoning Commission consider those requests as well. Town staff has also just noted review criteria related to architecture, traffic, green building, and wildfire mitigation, as well as the included referral comments. Staff is still working through referral comments with a couple of our referral agencies. However, we believe that the referral comments included are complete and should be considered as such. With that, if there are any initial questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we'll hand it over to the applicant to provide further color on their application before opening up the public hearing.
Is the 18.2% reduced parking based on 18 total spots or 6 total spots?
It would be 18 total spots. So 99 are required, 93 are proposed, and then of those 93, 12 are required to be shared with the adjacent property.
Anybody, any other questions for Carlton?
Or the applicant, or just Carlton?
Applicant's going to make a presentation,
That's correct.
then we'll have questions for him.
Carlton, does the town have traffic counts in this area?
Does the town specifically have traffic counts?
Yes.
Not to my knowledge. I do know that Eagle County has provided traffic counts as part of the updated intersection infrastructure upgrade at the Elgibel Road intersection. James, do you know if the town specifically has traffic counts?
We don't have separate traffic counts, but we can get you Eagle County's traffic counts as part of their intersection improvements for a future meeting.
Can we get archived traffic counts as well, dating back to when the movie land was operational?
I don't know that we have that, but we can take a look.
When they gave their alternative employee calculation, did we back check that against other hotels or anything else?
They provided, I would say, an appropriate list, maybe not extensive, but an appropriate list of comparable hotels in the area and in similar communities as part of that alternative compliance. That's included in the packet materials as well.
If you go to the very end, it's, I think, Exhibit 18, Kyle.
Thanks,
I
Cindy.
looked at that as well.
18, there it is. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Didn't make it to page 140.
We're good?
Any other initial questions? I'll hand it over to Grant.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for being here. Before, I will, thank you. I'm going to introduce our partner, Ben Moss, to introduce the project initially, and then I'll jump in myself and run you through the details of what we're proposing. Ben?
Everybody hear me okay?
Not really.
You know what, I'll do this. That work? Is that okay for everybody if I go like split screen live? Okay. So I'm Ben Moss, I'm the owner of Bowtie Partners. Wanted to introduce myself and thank everybody in the room for your time in reviewing our project. Bowtie Partners is a 4-generation family real estate and entertainment business, which started over 100 years ago. And for about 30 years, my father and I ran the company together. He passed away last fall, but I'm continuing to run the company as we did together and hope to do so for a very long time into the future, maybe even with the 5th generation when we get there. Starting about 40 years ago, my dad developed what is now Orchard Plaza, which included Movie Land, which opened in 1991, the Orchard Plaza commercial condominiums in front of Movie Land, the retail shops next to City Market. He sold Kroger Foods, the property that City Market is on, and they built that themselves. Once we knew that there wasn't a viable future for Movie Land as a business, which operated continuously for 34 years, we undertook a study to figure out what is the highest and best use for the property. And as you can imagine, we had numerous offers to purchase the property, none of which we entertained. We had several suggestions for new uses, which included some obvious ones and maybe some not so obvious ones. It was suggested that we pursue fast food. It was suggested that we pursue self-storage. And it was suggested, I promise I'm not making this up, that we pursue a shooting range. We have no desire to sell the property, and none of those uses or the others that we considered were particularly exciting to us. So we looked hard at how to figure out how to combine our entertainment experience and our real estate experience and to find a new venture that is allowed in our zoning district, that would be economically viable for us and for the town, that we can be proud to own, hopefully for long into the future. And it was clear to us after that analysis that developing a new hotel at a high quality standard, but in a price range within reach of a broad range of customers, is our answer. Since we don't have direct experience in developing or operating hotels, but we want to remain a long-term owner of the property and we want to remain an active participant in the development process, we launched a process to find a partner to help us do that. And that process received a whole lot of interest. We ultimately qualified 8 different developers who had the experience and the capability to plan and execute the project. And of those 8 finalists, some were large corporations who had a cookie cutter model for doing this. Some were luxury premium price developers who had a product type in mind that's more consistent with what we see in Aspen and Snowmass. And we didn't think either of those was the right fit for the property, for the town, or for us as a partner. This will be, if it moves forward, this will continue to be a family-owned property. It will also continue to be a family-owned business. So just to clarify what might be a misconception out there, Marriott is a franchisor, and we will be a franchisee of Marriott. They do not own the business, they don't manage the business, and they don't own the property. So it's still a family-owned business. And in Walsh Park, we found a match in our sensibilities and values and a partner with whom we're comfortable as long-term owners. Grant and John have successfully developed hotels in mountain communities, many in Colorado. They understand the need and have the shared desire with us to build high-quality properties that'll stand the test of time and provide great value to a broad range of travelers. And they tailor their approach to the needs of the project and the needs of each community. So with that, I'll turn it over to the rest of the team. We're looking forward to hearing everybody's thoughts and comments and answering your questions as best we can. And we thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Hang on, Grant, I'm getting a timeout sign from the booth. We will take 5. We are live stream. And we are back.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you making time this evening to hear our proposal for the hotel tonight. Myself, Grant Dupart, my partner, John Walsh, Kira Roach, and our other partner, Ben Moss, are all here to present, answer questions to the best of our ability. We're 100% open book. Ask anything you'd like, and we'll do our best to answer what we can. Before we get into the project, I thought I'd do a little bit of an introduction about Walsh Dupart as a firm, since you've heard about Bowtie Partners, and we haven't quite been around as long as their firm, but very happy to be partners with them in this project in Basalt. My background, I grew up working in hotels, not a family business. First job I had was in the hospitality industry. I got bit by the hospitality bug, absolutely loved it, and that's all I've done my whole career. I thought that I would be in operations for the majority of my life, but ended up finding my way into a dream of owning our own hotels. I did that with my partner, John Walsh. We actually met as college roommates here in Colorado, and we started our firm, Walsh Dupart, in 2021. Our goal has always been to develop hotels in the places that we love. We love Colorado. Our home company is here. We're a small firm, 5 people, including John and myself. Right now, we've developed in Steamboat and Winter Park, and we own hotels in Durango, Colorado. We have a very focused product type in terms of our hospitality delivery. We like to deliver exceptionally high quality products that are priced at a reasonable price point. We learned this business plan earlier on in our careers working in hotels. There's a wide range of paths that you can go down, from economy hotels all the way up to luxury, and we like to sit, frankly, in the middle of that segment. I thought I'd scroll through a little bit of what we're looking at today and give you some background of the project itself. This is the Movie Land site as it currently stands, and we're looking to do a 94 key Residence Inn with 2 additional affordable housing units included. A little bit about the way we execute our projects. I thought I'd show you what a standard Residence Inn looks like. This comes from Marriott's development brochure, right? And so if you're going to go to Marriott, you can actually say, hey, I want to build a Residence Inn, and they'll give you a plan set that you can just take off the shelf and build, right? That's not what we do. We've never built an off-the-shelf prototype hotel. It's not what we're passionate about doing. This is what the exterior might look like. This is what an interior might look like. And this is what your breakfast area might look like. Why we like this product in terms of resort and mountain communities is it delivers a very wide range of product that attracts a lot of people and serves a variety of needs. The first and foremost, family travelers are a very big segment in the hotels that we develop. All of the rooms in this product will have a kitchen. They all have a pull-out couch. A double queen room can sleep 6 people. We serve a complimentary breakfast. We have no bar. We have no restaurant. And so it's really a less impactful execution of a lodging option, and it requires far less people to operate the hotel than a hotel that has any sort of food and beverage operation, valet service, bellman, and that's why our employee count, as you have seen, is lower compared to some of the other hotels that you may have experienced in prior lives. A couple of the sort of guest demographics that we often see outside of our leisure guests relate to service providers for the areas that we're working in. I'm sure it's no surprise that it's hard to keep, attract certain workers to the area. And so we often see people like travel nurses, forest firefighters, and construction teams improving infrastructure who are here for a shorter period of time, but not for an entire year staying in these assets. In the Residence Inn product, whenever you see displacement related to natural disasters, this is typically where an insurance company is going to put you if you don't have a place to stay. That's a big segment in our demand. We own a Residence Inn in Durango. I'm sure you saw the floods down there quite recently. Our Residence Inn became the place where most of the guests or the local residents ended up getting put up while their homes were repaired. We also really believe in hotels over the gig economy and short-term rentals. A couple of things that we do that are different than that product is we provide 401k benefits, health insurance, travel benefits with Marriott if you're an employee at one of our hotels. Those are things that you typically don't see if you're operating in the short-term rental space. If you're a housekeeper and you're working in short-term rentals, you're not going to have the same protections that you get when you work for a real company. In addition to that, there's a number of safety issues that we are able to tackle as both a branded hotel but a proficient operator. That looks like anti-human trafficking efforts, anti-harassment efforts, and these are just things that are very, very, very common in the short-term rental space, whether it's lodging or short-term rentals, and we're able to address it much better than a short-term rental operation is. Not to mention, we are actually not taking homes out of the inventory in order to rent our rooms. I'll show you a little bit about the product types that we are doing, so you have a sense now of what the standard Residence Inn, if you will, could look like. This is a project that's under construction right now in Fraser, just outside of Winter Park. We're hoping to open this hotel at the end of the year. As you can see, nice metal panel siding, real stone on the exterior, small pool, hot tub, and just an elevated exterior experience. We like to try and bring in the design of the local community into our interiors, and so this is where we spend a lot of our effort. We want a high quality looking building, and then on the interior, we want people to feel like they actually have arrived in the town that they're going to. This is our front desk reception area. This is our fireside lobby seating. We also have a small meeting space in the back that's available for local and traveler demand. This is what a breakfast area looks like for our Fraser Hotel, really focused on the fly fishing and ranch theme in the breakfast area. And then this is just another view of that. So as you can tell, we like to spend a little bit more money to do things the right way. What I want to make sure you know is this doesn't mean that we're developing a luxury hotel. We are really careful about how we spend our dollars in certain areas of the hotel so people feel like they have a great local experience. But we're not going overboard and building this hotel to a level where we have to charge $900 a night for a guest to stay here. A family can jump into a Spring Hill Suites, put 6 people in a room, and all get free breakfast the next morning. This is the current redevelopment plan. On the left, you'll see the aerial of the Movieland Theater and the floor plan of our hotel. We're proposing to demolish the Movieland Theater and put the parking back behind the current retail and condo building adjacent to us. The hotel will back up to the loading side of the city market, which is lined with trees currently. So on 3 sides, we have commercial or highway uses. This is what the exterior elevation initial draft looks like, and we'd love to hear your feedback on this. Of course, there's some questions about height. We did push in certain areas to try and get some architectural interest here, but open to discuss and answer questions there. The primary materials here, we're going to be bringing in metal panel. Wood tone siding is something that we've used on a lot of our product, which is a really good, high quality looking product, or something similar. And we'll do real stone. We don't do a fake stone product along the ground floor, which obviously looks much better. I know there's questions around Marriott, Residence Inn, who is this, why is this? Marriott doesn't own hotels. The owners are Ben, John, and I. John and I, when we started, we're not independently wealthy. We started raising money from people. We've never raised money from private equity. We've never had Wall Street invest in any of our deals. Most of the people who have individually invested in all of our projects have some sort of deep tie to the location in which we've invested. That is not dissimilar here. And so this still is going to be a family-owned business, operated business. Marriott is just the flag. It's important that we have the brand for all the standards I just outlined. A lot of companies, people will only stay in branded hotels because of the level of standard that they adhere to. They make you upkeep your hotel to a much stricter degree than what you would have if you're an independent hotel that's interior and exterior. You're constantly going through quality audits to make sure that your experience is good for the guests that are coming here. And if I'm welcoming people to Basalt, we want to make sure that we're doing a good job at it. That's why we like the brands. We have tried to do our best to mitigate how much the Residence Inn flag, if you will, is coming in here. We actually got a waiver from the brand company to reduce the number of signs which we're supposed to have on the building. And we also were able to reduce the size of the sign so that we're not plastering Residence Inn all over the side of the hotel. And I think that helps to lend itself towards the design aesthetic of the hotel. But really, they're just a franchisee. We operate it, we own it, and it's our business for the long term. We've never sold a hotel in any of our Colorado Rockies towns. John and I are still early on in our careers. We're super proud of what we've done, and we want to do right by the communities we're in and the places that we're working. We're donating to the local philanthropies where we can. It's our signs on the side of the baseball fields. It's us helping donate used linens to the animal shelters. So I know it's hard to objectively check that, but we do care about the communities that we work in, and we're trying to do products that matter and are a benefit to the community. I think I will leave it there. I could keep going, but I know that there's a lot of people that I'm sure want to speak. Thank you very much for hearing our presentation. I'm happy to address some questions out of the gate about any items you've seen in the packet, but I don't want to keep going and take up too much time.
So we'll do commissioner questions for you, and then we'll open the floor to
Perfect. Thank you.
Mike?
Sure.
Keyed up?
Have you pulled any occupancy rates of existing hotels to see the demand of this hotel within Basalt?
Yes, there's an average 74% occupancy rate for comparable hotels. That's over an annual period. Hotels, a good strong hotel market would be anything in the 70s because course, that means like as you think about mud season, you're probably going to have a little bit less staff, mostly with people who are doing service industry. And then we did pull out a couple of rates that I thought were interesting for hotels between Basalt and Aspen. Average rate on a trailing 12 basis was $593. As you can imagine, that's an exceptionally high rate. It's not a rate that we're going to average at this hotel.
Do you have an average rate that makes sure that you'd pursue?
We're projecting to be in the 200s.
Okay.
What was that?
In the 200s.
No other questions at this
Happy to
time.
come back to you if anything comes
You
up.
didn't take the low-hanging fruit one.
Cindy?
Go around.
Yeah, my question would be if you have the capacity or ability there to add more than 2 employee housing units.
I think that the financial viability of the project is going to be stressed by adding additional units, and we've done our best to meet the code. We actually conservatively estimated the employee counts that we've got for the project, and I can just skip ahead here and show you this table. We're anticipating to generate 16 additional employees at the project. We estimated 20 in the analysis we did where we came up with the 2 units. And then in addition, there were many more associates than 4 working at Movieland, but we went ahead and did the full-time equivalent by dividing all those hours and added that into our calculation. Even if you take that out, we rounded up from basically the 1.34 unit requirement to 2. If you take all of that out, the requirement per the code is 1.6. And we talked through this at length with Bach. Look, my frank response, taking some of the developer hat off a little bit, is that forcing employees to live in the hotel is probably not the best execution for them. And that's why we all came to the conclusion that we're going to put the units where we are, and we're going to put the signs where we are, because someone is going to leave work here, and then they're going to be in the exact same building that they're working. I think we've done a very good job at mitigating that with our 2 units, but I'm not extremely excited about putting more of our people in the same building.
Do we have Elements is within Basalt. Do we know how many units they provided?
0.
That might be a question for James.
They were part of a larger PUD amendment for Willits Town Center.
Okay.
And so there was a total of 50 affordable housing units provided, but it was for more than just the element.
Okay.
At that point.
I don't think that any of those are in the hotel, correct?
That's correct. There's no units in
Anything else?
Exhibit 2B as your variance requests, but the height is not in here.
I can respond to that. The height request is through a PUD amendment. Would not be asking for a variance from the underlying zoning, as the zoning is currently PUD. If that makes sense. You're not asking for a variance from the C3 zone district requirements. They're asking to amend the PUD agreement.
But the C3 has a 35-foot height limit, right?
That's correct.
And we're going to 46 here.
That's what's requested for a max roof line. The building height that's being requested is 36 feet.
So the variance to the 10, so to get the additional 10 is not a variance?
The request is for a PUD amendment. So going through a private document instead of a request to change the zoning or a variance from the underlying zoning, which is C3.
So Kyle, it is proposed to be higher than the underlying C3 zoning through a PUD amendment. So it's not a hardship variance. It's establishing the height through a PUD.
Does it still require our approval?
Still requires approval.
Correct.
And how about with the FAR? I was a little confused with how it was
So
explained.
the FAR request is essentially abandoning the FAR that was prescriptively established for the movie theater through the planned unit development agreement and the annexation agreement, and abandoning that and instead choosing to use the FAR as established by the underlying zoning, which is C3. And then I would just note, there was a note of it in the staff memo. The permitted FAR would be 2. The proposed FAR would be 0.74. So significantly under what would be allowed by C3.
So I guess going back to the height then, what occurs if this stays at the current zoning levels?
Good question. So it's a 35-foot height limit and 33 feet to the top of floor, but 3-floor building, right? So I think that as we see it, the intent of a 3-story building is not actually really easy to capture in 35 feet, right? And so if we go to a lower floor, we would lose a floor. Right now, we've done everything we can to create an economically viable hotel. So we're talking, let me actually show you this. It's an 11-foot floor to floor in the lobby, which is not extremely high. And it is an 8-foot floor to floor in the guest rooms, keeping the building at a 3-story building. This would be the lowest that we've done in our development space. And then we've done everything we can in terms of the structure to try and compress the structure to allow for the lowest height possible. I do just want to note the 46 feet, I understand it's high. It's a very slim percentage of the building. We really, that is, if I go back to these renderings, that's the awnings, right? And we did that to create some architectural interest similar to some of the buildings downtown here. We're open to thinking through other paths of that architectural interest, but it's really not, it's not the majority of the building. That's there to try and create a good looking building.
So the south side of this building is backed up to the neighborhood, correct?
Yep, that's
Which
correct.
Would also be
Right here.
46 feet,
These two,
basically about the same as the far side.
that's correct. And so, if the guidance we got tonight was, we think you should just take those off the back building, we did do some shadow studies to try and make sure that we weren't impacting the neighborhood. We can go through those, but we have no objection to taking those off. We're trying to do what we think is going to be a better looking building, but the back side for us of the building, if we want to pull those down, I think that's a very fair comment. Because it
Are
is
the
closest to the neighborhood.
Yeah, the shadow studies are not in our
Correct.
plans, I believe. Do you have those available?
Yeah, I could show you here. So here's winter solstice, fall and spring equinox, and then this is summer solstice. The red is 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. only during the summer solstice. So the majority of these shadows are over City Market.
Grant, I don't remember seeing sight lines looking back towards the building. Was that in the packet?
We haven't done this.
Could we get for the next time you're here?
Sight lines.
Well, so we can, what it's gonna look like from the Summit Vista neighborhood and maybe what it's gonna look like from Highway 82?
Three-dimensional.
Yeah, so I think so. Sure, absolutely. I'm looking at my partner. He's more the construction brains of the operation, and I'm more of the operations brains.
It could be a rougher view because it won't be a model that we can drop into like Google Earth, but we can get something that
I
resembles.
think that would be helpful to see the impact of the neighborhood in particular, also from the highway.
Sure.
My last question is, there's the commercial building across from you guys has a bunch of parking that would be theirs, according to the survey, that is actually kind of directly across from your entrance, pretty much. I'm on page,
I'll just leave it there.
yeah.
This parking here.
Has there been thoughts about how you would control that parking to ensure guests aren't parking there?
I think we can sign it, and that
It
would
would just be signage.
signage will work. We can. We will tell people if people aren't parking in the right spot, and that's just a guest check-in process, right? Making sure people know where they're supposed to park, appropriately signing it and saying, this isn't allowed to be parked in. And look, we're not in the business of trying to tow our guests. We certainly don't want to do that. But if someone parks in a restricted parking spot, I think it's sort of well within our right. And it's similar to how we'll control the housing parking, which we're going to place closest to the employee units in the building.
Okay. That's all my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to just check back with that FAR, Carlton. Is that something that we're also going to have to approve, or we don't because it's going to fall back to the?
The request would be to remove the stipulation, so it would be part of the PUD language change. So it'd be removing the FAR as PUD, which is currently trumping the underlying zoning, right? And then that language would just be stricken from the PUD and then would default to the underlying zoning.
That's something that we would vote on and do.
That would be part of the proposal as seen.
Okay. Ben?
Couple questions. First one, are there any residential units in the existing Movieland Theater or spaces above?
No, and there is no mitigation for the movie land use either, offsite.
Are there any changes to the other side of Orcha Plaza as it relates to what we are modifying here today?
Are you referring to the condo building? The
Correct.
commercial condos?
Yes.
I'll defer to the applicant.
No proposals there right now to modify that building.
Not to modify any other changes in ECR or shared agreements.
Nope. Yeah, we'll leave them as is. The most notable one is the parking easement that remains in place.
And then, James, as a part of the Willits PUD amendment, was the square footage calculation and the housing mitigation credit based on retail as the requirement that generated the 55 units based on square footage?
It was a mix of retail and hotel. So the hotel did a employee generation scenario as well. The Element did.
We have copies of those applications.
Yeah, we can get those for you.
Thank you. No further questions.
First of all, I've got to say, I think probably everyone agrees with me here that I'm really sorry to see the movie land go. It was great having a theater in town, and I understand that it didn't work, but it was a nice run while we had it. Did you guys consider, and what we expected, at least what I expected to see, would have been, a mixed-use commercial condo building?
We did, do you want me to step up to the mic?
Yes, please, one of them.
Yeah. We did talk about that. But we looked ultimately at what is allowable in the zoning, and the practical reality of commercial space there outside of this use, retail or other things, is that everything you could want exists next door. And so there's really no considerable demand for for that type of thing. Like I can't think of what we would put there in a retail space. There's certainly not office demand, right? So we did consider it, but we couldn't come up with anything that
What I
we
expected
thought there
to
was
see,
demand
so
for. Yeah,
that's why I asked.
and we did also engage in about a year-long effort to lease the Movieland building to a different use, and we got 0 takers. And we hired a regional broker to do that, not just somebody local. So would have scoured, a significant number of uses. There was literally no interest whatsoever.
I do think the indoor shooting range would have been a really good idea, especially in this dry summer, but that's a different
No
conversation. Bach talked about sound mitigation. Was that just windows or insulation on the?
Yeah, I can respond to that and then pass it off to Grant. The conversation at Box surrounded what that livability would be like for residents in the hotel. As Grant mentioned, there was discussion surrounding livability for residents who are living in the same place that they're working. And I don't think that it should be discounted in its presentation to P&Z. One of the items that came out of that discussion was discussion regarding sound transmission what the standards are for multifamily and then what the standard is for the hotel. And they just asked that the town look at our standards that we apply to multifamily construction and that the applicant come back with what their standard would be for construction. The town standard is not governed by any planning documents, but defers to the building regulation, which for multifamily is 50, an STC score of 50.
So is that for the whole building or just for the affordable units?
That would be for multifamily residential. That's the minimum. You can obviously exceed that.
Okay.
And on the hotel side, going back to, Marriott and standards, right, and making sure that we're building a higher quality product, you can't build less than 55 and be a Marriott hotel. So by default, the building for the hotel requirements are going to make the multifamily, the housing requirements higher than what is required by code.
Well, let's move on to our public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you to the public for all showing up tonight. It's great to see a room full of people here. We're going to ask that when you take the podium, tell us your name and your address, and we ask that you try to limit your comments to about 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is John Shan, and I live at 199 Arapaho. And I guess before I even say what I wrote, it's actually the presentation is more encouraging than kind of what I expected. So that's good to know. But I'll still read it because I know how things go. So, given the multiple new demands, this hotel in any form and size will put on local roads and available water, I want to say that at minimum, that it be offered no variances in size, height, scale, or exterior lighting. This is not something the local community has been looking for, and the project, as has been further described today, doesn't seem to offer any public amenities. I don't think it should be allowed beyond any scope that the existing zoning allows. I do not believe this is our community's responsibility to offer variances to a developer to simply for their profit margin or even for project viability. And then the other issue, if it moves forward, and sorry if it's a little harsh, but that's how I felt earlier. A particular concern of mine and my neighbors in Soper's Village is the exterior lighting. The applicant over the years seems to have shown no respect for his neighbors, despite multiple appeals from them regarding the drastic extent to which the applicant's exterior lighting extends beyond his property line into homes, parks, and the sky. If this application moves forward, I do hope and implore that the town of Basalt holds them to the letter of the lighting code. Even better would be if the applicant would be a good neighbor and simply choose to adopt even stricter dark sky lighting than the code asks for. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Hi, I'm Ann Austin Clapper. I live at 11 Walter Road, which is Hooks Lane. So I'm actually unincorporated Eagle County, but I go to Crown Mountain Park all the time. I want to throw a monkey wrench in this and say, no hotel. We don't need it. And I have a much better suggestion. The town of Basalt has been talking about putting in a rec center over by Willits and Lewis Lane with employee housing, a center for kids to play basketball and other activities. And we could use the existing Movie Land Theater to do that, not have to scrape another building, create more pollution, trash, whatever. And it's got the parking, it's got the bus line there, it's got the underpass at the highway. The majority of kids in the area live in Elgibelt and Blue Lake, and the kids from Basalt can ride the bus for free from Basalt to Elgibelt. So there would be much less impact on traffic. And I think it would be a much better community service, and maybe the town and Eagle County can get involved in doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Hi there, my name's Greg Sugars, and I live on Aspen Junction and Hillcrest Drive. I want to echo what Ann just said and maybe expand on it a little bit. I think what we have here is we have a situation where what the developer wants and what the community needs don't match. What the developer wants is they want a hotel that'll make money on that site. I get that. But the greater need is what the community has to have. And what the community is lacking is housing, and the community is lacking daycare. Sort of what she said. Currently, the town has been fussing about the property across from Tikal to try to put housing and some form of daycare recreation center in there. If this proposal were different and said, we're going to put the daycare recreation for the young kids in this particular spot, then that spot across from Tikal could be totally dedicated strictly to housing, which would make more sense. She's right. This is a great spot. It's near the bus stop, the grocery, shopping, parking, Crown Mountain. We'd also make it a great spot to have kids, coming and going and so forth, because all the amenities are there. And the other thing you have to think about as well is if a hotel does really well, I think a Ritz-Carlton will do really well if it can get 70% occupancy during the course of a year. Housing, we're going to get 100% occupancy the course of the year. They can't match it. They can't beat it. So we have to decide, once again, what comes first here? Are we here to represent the greater interests of the community or represent the individual interests of a developer? It's nothing against the developer, but when they don't jive, we have to make a decision and take care of our community. And that's what this is all about. And lastly, we have the Hoffman Hotel, we have the Element. Is there anybody clamoring for a third hotel in that area? Nope. But they are clamoring for daycare. And they are clamoring for employee housing. And if we can't do those two things, then we don't have a community anymore.
Thank you, Greg.
Hello, my name is Heather and I live in Soper's Village. And I'm concerned that it sounds like this hotel is going to go, but I want to know how is it going to impact the Soper's Village homeowners and our way of living. Sorry, I'm cold. I said the park is owned and maintained by our residents and it's intended for the exclusive use of the homeowners. And I would like to know what measures would be taken to prevent hotel guests from inadvertently using or accessing our private amenities. I'm also concerned about the increased foot traffic, parking, litter, security, and liability issues that could affect homeowners. Our enjoyment of our beautiful neighborhood. Like, is there anything that you might do are there going to be any barriers or can the developer please express how they're going to address these concerns and what commitments they're willing to make to protect the residents' private space? So, thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
I'm Susan Chisholm. I live at 126 Kiowa. And I was wondering if the applicant and or the town planners could address two items for everyone in the room to understand better. Could you please explain the emergency access from the parking lot on Sopers Village Drive to everyone? And if you could please explain further that if the annexation agreement was revised and the square footage limitation was removed, that in the future, a project could on this property build up to 137,000 square feet of building, as opposed to what is limited now to 16,800.
I can address both of those after public comment.
My name is Brian Apona. I live on Cheyenne Avenue, and I oppose the proposed site plan. Working with the community, unfortunately, the hotel is going to overlook many backyards and into, bedrooms. So I propose that you, if we're going to go forward, have the parking lot as a parking lot, and Orchard Plaza would be the location of the hotel. And in terms of the screening for the parking, you already have those trees lined up by City Market. We could do another line of trees, to have screening or fencing for additional parking. And then in the event we go higher, like I agree with past comments about light pollution. Right now I've had meetings with James Lint about the current, Bowtie Cinema, how their lighting is just broadcast out and about, and it's into our yards and affecting everybody. Plus the noise, what we have to do to mitigate, for the numerous guests staying at the hotel. And then for security and safety, always a concern as well. And if we are going to continue with the landscaping, hopefully Town of Basalt or Bowtie can improve that sidewalk that goes to the back of Sopers Village all the way through. That has never been maintained by the Town of Basalt as it was supposed to be during the City Market expansion. I think that was it. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Good evening. My name's Doug Crawford. I live at 200 Arapahoe. Very excited to join in the process. Have only a couple comments, so I won't take my whole 3 minutes. But as councilman, designing and putting together the future of Basalt, was this the visual entrance you envisioned for the strip mall of Highway 82 that is now the town of Basalt? And I only bring that up because I drove into Basalt tonight. And when you come downtown to Basalt, it's a lovely little community. But when you're traveling Highway 82, and I came cross traffic, the traffic really was backed up from the El Jabal lights all the way to the Basalt lights. It's a traffic thing for me and things. For my neighbors, it's a big thing because this is adjacent to our neighborhood, a high development property, high occupancy property, next to an affordable housing community of Sopers Village. The third comment I have for you all, more work for consideration. As a ski hotel, is transportation a factor? What consideration by the town is the town doing for a regional transportation system that's already maxed out during peak hours? I like to ride the bus. It says fast, fun, and frequent on it. But I don't like getting on the bus and being jostled by people, by all the ski equipment, because Basalt is a ski town, and we're all going skiing through the winter. And lastly, just while we're sitting here ever so calmly, a quick search on Google hotels without any dates in mind shows the average rate for the two hotels in Basalt at $319 and $340 for tomorrow night, midweek, off-season. It's a great project. It's going to be a huge moneymaker. I don't think $200 a night is going to be the ADR. You can get a lot more, and you will get a lot more. I just want everybody to be aware of what's going to take place. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
My name is Michael Miners. I live at 111 Kiowa in Cypress Village. And I have a number of concerns about this project. First and primary is our water supply. We have a private water system. Our primary well is probably 350 feet from the parking lot. In 2014, when the town of Basalt and RAFTA agreed to build the park and ride, we had a government agreement between the Cypress Village Homeowners Association and the town of Basalt to help pay for a monitor well and monitor our water for 5 years. I'd like you to consider that as a condition of approval, since there's now going to be so much more parking and greater drainage off of the building into an area that's close to our primary water supply. You know, I'm also very concerned about the parking as it's proposed. They're already six spaces short, but they did not make it clear if that was including the 15.2% reduction in size that they're also asking for. So if it does, then they're much more short on parking than 6 spaces. And the issue I have with that is that the park and ride is already overused by Crown Mountain and everybody else. So once they have limited parking there, taxpayers have paid for the park and ride, and they're going to expand it. The overflow from the hotel will naturally go into the park and ride, therefore reducing that much more space already paid for by taxpayers. So I'm really concerned about that. I'd also like to be sure that there are steps taken so there's no overnight parking. Enforcement is an issue with the park and ride. There's often overnight parking there, sometimes for days, and RAFTA doesn't patrol it. They don't do anything about it. So again, you may have people that are staying at the hotel, but they may also have other vehicles that there's overnight parking. Vehicle access from the parking into Cypress Village, Movie Land used to do that to us, and Eagle County wouldn't enforce it or barely enforced it. There's no parking on the roadways in Cypress Village. So I would request that as part of any approval conditions be that there is no access from the parking lot of the hotel onto Cypress Village Drive. And furthermore, that there is no parking on Cypress Village Drive. And also that there would be no construction traffic through Cypress Village to accommodate that. And as mentioned by some of the others here, our park is already overused, abused even by people from Crown Mountain Park. And I would request that the applicant look into some form of fencing around their property to not only designate their space, but to limit people from wanting to gravitate into our park. And as John mentioned, the night sky is really important to us. And between City Market, Movie Land, Park and Ride, and the Community Center, they all have different fixtures. They all have different illumination. It's just kind of silly that, you know, hopefully there would be some type of coordination through not just the Park and Ride Community Center, but City Market and this new development. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Hi, my name is Emily Suter, and I live up in Missouri Heights. So I'm not a neighbor, but I use that intersection daily. And I really have a question about your traffic math. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see why you say there's only 3 more cars a day that are going to go to that hotel that currently go there now. For one, Elgibel Movie Land has not been that busy, so there's not been that many cars. If you do a 76% occupancy rate, we all know we can't do anything but drive to that hotel if you're coming from Denver or wherever you're, or an airport. That calculates to 65 cars. So at 76% rate, you've got 65 cars. At 100% rate, you've got 92 cars. That's a lot more cars, and they're coming and going, not just at night to go to a movie. So that concerns me a lot. I do request that Basalt does a more aggressive traffic analysis. I thought I read in the paper that that wasn't deemed necessary, I disagree. The other piece that I can't remember who mentioned, but the community outreach piece is a real concern for me. There is no tangible benefit to our community. If you're hiring or employing 20 people, that's not very many. You're housing 2 very small units. So maybe 2 people or 4 people in that unit. That's not the kind of units that we need for affordable housing. We need family housing. We need housing that, people who are growing a family and also working in the valley can use. And finally, and this is kind of touchy, but while I appreciate you saying you're family owned and you've been in the valley a long time and you want to stay here and own this, I hate to say it, but we've heard that song 2 times before, and we've been bitten in the back 2 times with Gorsuch and H. Lane. Both of them are long-term people who we've all loved and have huge respect for. Both of them sold out before the buildings were built. And so everything changed magically. And so just know that who you're talking to and know that that's sort of maybe an unsung comment or something that people are carrying with them. But it's a very sore subject. Just gonna make that clear. So I hope that Basalt, if, as a town, you can find a way to mitigate that kind of backstabbing that we've felt in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm a teacher at the middle school. I'm familiar with a lot of the students here. On the way here, I saw the same group of students like twice, riding bikes, some of them at the pool. Yesterday, I saw them at the library. Just based on my familiarity with them, there is a demand for a rec center. They're extremely active. I see them out all the time. But then I also hear them saying, we have nothing to do. They're trying to do things, they don't know where to go to do that. Yesterday I'm at the library. They just wanted a place to talk. They got told they're being too loud for the library, which is fine. They need a place that's appropriate for what they're trying to do. And then beyond that, the school's also being used as a kind of improvised rec center a lot of the time. I'll go after school and they're having Spanish classes there. There's other sporting events for people that aren't affiliated with the school. There's adults using it as a sporting center. I feel the rec center would allow us to actually localize and center a lot of these events and also provide a hub for things like the RFOV, community events, places where they're trying to figure out where are we going to do this. We'll do it at the school, this random spot where they won't take us out. Beyond that, for the appeal to adults, there's a gym. And the gyms here aren't super competitive. They're charging $90 from Maryland. I got something maybe 3 times the amount of services. It wouldn't be that hard to compete with them and convince adults to pay $90 a month for just basic offerings, which is what they're doing. And also sending me passive aggressive messages for things I didn't do other gym members. I feel there's a pretty easy appeal for a rec center for both adults and children here.
Thank you, Eric.
Hello. My name's Janine Gunning, and I'm the president of the Sopris Village homeowners. And I just wanted to point out, I would highly recommend Bowtie Partners, but I would point out that our water line goes through the project. So our water line is 55 inches down. They've just exposed it from the Elgibel intersection, and it's super brittle. So having this go across, we've had this problem before, as Mike Myers knows. When Shadow Rock went in, I think it needs to be a consideration, and we need to be protected somehow over the water line, which is why I'm here. I also think they should abide by the parking.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
Abide by the parking.
Abide by the parking, thank you.
Only because he did say that you could put 6 people to a room. And if you're putting 6 people to a room, they're driving here. They're not flying in. So I think that is a little bit short on the parking. But otherwise, We just want to make sure our water line's protected.
Anybody else for public comment?
My name's Ted Guy. I live here in Old Town, Swinging Bridge Lane. One thing I think that you guys need to do when you're looking at the changes, you need to treat the existing PUD as the Bible. That's what they're changing, not going to the FAR of 2. They're asking for a 20% parking reduction. You should say no. They're asking for a 33% increase in height. You should say no. That entire neighborhood is 1 and 2 stories. All the houses next door are 1 and 2 stories. This should be a 2-story building. Why do we need a third hotel? To meet Aspen's need? The intersection is already at service level F, morning and night. As somebody said, it's backed up from Basalt all the way to Elgibel, from Catherine's store all the way to Elgibel in the morning. It's broken. We don't need 94 keys to add to our traffic. And I think too that moving the hotel to where Movie Land is right now would be a much better view for half the rooms. Otherwise, they're looking at the roof of City Market. Thanks.
Thanks, Ted.
Ryan Bradley, 60 Arapahoe. Just looking at this, their hotel in Durango, I was looking at booking it. It's $290 a night. Basalt's a more expensive place than Durango. I think the reality is once this hotel comes in, we have the cost of labor, the cost of doing business in this town. It's quickly in the $300 range. And then it's basically the Hoffman and the Element. And I know we were quoted the 74% occupancy rate, but have we looked at the occupancy rate of the Hoffman and the Element and the hotels here in Basalt, just Basalt? Because we're not Snowmass, we're not Aspen. And I just feel like this hotel is really redundant. And I feel bad for my neighbors who live close enough to it. They're going to be out barbecuing with their families, looking up at people looking down on them from balconies. It just seems like it's not in character with the development in that area. When you go over by Willits, there's a lot of high buildings and stuff. But when you come over to the City Market side, things are a lot lower. And I feel like, it's going to be just a big impact on our neighborhood, our traffic, our park that we're going to have to deal with. And I think that, that no variances should be given for parking or for the height of the building. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Anybody else?
Have some online, Rob, if you'd like to go to the online comments.
Okay, can you click them on?
Sure.
All right.
The first one we have is Casey Schlossberg. Casey, if you'd like to unmute to provide comments to P&Z.
Thank you very much. My husband and I are a small business owned, and we're in the Orchard Plaza. We own the UPS store. When we put up a new sign for the UPS store, we had, I would say, between 50 and 60 letters written to us from locals about the light pollution just from our little sign that says UPS store. We've since worked with Orchard Plaza to reduce the light pollution in the wintertime when it gets dark earlier. But the amount of residents in the neighborhoods across 82 and Shadow Rock and on the other side from us complained tremendously. Like I said, we probably got between 50 and 60 handwritten notes from locals complaining about our sign light pollution. So I can only imagine about the amount of light pollution that's going to be emitted from a hotel of 94 doors. I also, being a local business that would be adjacent to this, would also like to ask that there's no variance in a reduction of parking. The parking situation in and out of our little store is a cluster as is. And I know that, well, I feel that the overflow from the parking situation of a busy hotel will greatly impact our small businesses that are located in Orchard Plaza.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
If you're online and would like to speak to the P&Z, please raise your hand. Looks like nobody else is raising their hand online.
Anybody else like to speak? Then we,
I brought a copy of this agreement between the town of Basalt and RAFTA and Silvers Village in regard to the monitor well and the testing. It's not a signed copy. The town of Basalt has that. I'm sorry. I brought a copy of the agreement between the town of Basalt, RAFTA, and Silvers Village Homeowners Association in regard to the monitor well that was installed in 2014. I'd like to give that to you so that you have reference to it. I know
James,
it's on
do you have
file.
that?
We do. We've got the signed one, but
You have this one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 7:29, we'll close the public comment and open to commissioner discussions.
Just one other question, staff.
Certainly.
The PUD amendment request is to, as it sits now, the only thing that could be done to this property is to knock that down and build the same exact thing, a movie theater.
Correct.
So the amendment then would just put the C3 zoning on the PUD.
Currently the PUD and annexation agreements have a prescriptive use for the site. This would then open it to commercial uses as permitted in the zone district. That's correct. Lodging and hotel use are permitted by right in the C3 zone district. However, as discussed this evening, there are also dimensional requests that are addressed through a mix of underlying zoning and through the PUD amendment requests.
So by agreeing to the PUD amendment, we would then be opening up to all sorts of different uses that they could use or sell, and then we could end up with a much bigger project, theoretically, because it's now just the C3 zoning.
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
And Carlton, to clarify one of the comments here and your response to that comment, should we go ahead and approve and move forward with the application as presented, any future development opportunity would be able to take advantage of that full 2.0 FAR?
I'm going to let the applicant respond to that at this time. For FAR, that is currently the way the application has been presented.
That's correct in terms of the way that the application's been presented. Obviously, there's a lot of limits to the project in terms of what we would be able to do because of parking and everything else that could come with it. We're open to limiting the FAR to say half that, right? And making sure that you understand we're not going to be in a place where we're then, although it would be highly unlikely because it's expensive to build in the mountains, demolishing the hotel and then trying to rebuild another commercial facility. So that would probably be our best proposal, and that significantly limit what ends up happening in correlation to what we're proposing for square footage too.
And I would just note that I know Rob asked earlier, but just for everybody's, so it's top of mind for everybody, as presented, the current FAR in this proposal is 0.74. Would be permitted at 2. Proposal is 0.74.
As far as the vesting rights of this entitlement process, should the developer choose not to move forward with construction, is the property vested in these modified PUD amendments? no matter if the property moves forward with construction or not.
My understanding would be
We haven't drafted conditions yet, but kind of going back to your last couple questions, the floor area is typically limited to what the applicant is proposing in a PUD, or so, they wouldn't have the allowance to get to 2-to-1 FAR of the underlying zoning.
But the PUD amendment is separate from any building permit application.
Yes, it is. And so in draft conditions, you would likely have the allowances that are established in the approvals specific to the dimensional requirements to be specific to a hotel on the site. I mean, that could be part of the discussion, but that's usually how a PUD is written.
But the prescriptive protections that are currently platted on this lot would be removed should the entitlements be provided by this board and town council.
Yes, correct.
And is there a way, if this ends up as a C3, to limit it to 0.76 or 1 going forward?
Yeah, through the PUD approvals, you could limit the floor area because the PUD is a site-specific development plan.
And so that would run with the land?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good question. Thoughts, people, parking?
I would like to respond to one comment that staff can address right now. I know a lot of the comments are related to potential redesign or may need to be addressed by the applicant team. Staff can currently address what an emergency vehicle access would consist of. Emergency vehicle access would be restricted for access to emergency vehicles. Would use something like a Knox box and a gate. Bollards are also considered. The applicant has proposed a drivable or mountable curb, and then also the access would need to be clear of snow and debris in the wintertime. So RFFR has provided draft comments related to the emergency vehicle access, but traffic or standard vehicle access could not be taken onto Sopris Village Drive. It is standard to have a minimum of 2 vehicle accesses for development projects, whether that's multifamily or commercial redevelopment, and that would be a requirement of this development or redevelopment, whatever that may be, should this property be redeveloped.
Is that emergency access already there on Sopris Village?
I don't believe so.
Where is the emergency access for this?
There is none off the
There's
back.
not be any. Yeah,
I think it's just in and out the same way.
it's 35 years ago.
I've seen vehicles drive over that.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, go for it.
My name's John Walsh with Walsh Depart. We've had many meetings with the fire department. They actually wanted us to add a road that connected us to the back neighborhood, and that was something we were very against, creating additional traffic to something that you aren't experiencing now. So we went through a couple things with the fire department to try to get them across the line. Per code, you only need 1. But there is over a certain square footage of building that there's the requirement by the fire department. They have the option to add a second access, which is driving the second access to the back road. They wanted a curb cut. We asked if we could do more of a greenscape and a 0-line curb and try to make it so you wouldn't, as a standard patron on the sidewalk, know that it's clearly a curb cut. So it looked appropriate for the neighborhood, and we still had grass growing, and it seemed more fitting for the neighborhood. And then we'll have the lockable gate in the setting to restrict any vehicles from using it, only fire department. So that's where we landed, and it is at the
just pointed out.
Yeah, I'm
top
trying
left corner, that green patch. That area over there is our 24-foot second access point. Thank you.
I'd like to point out that the current intersection relocation project, Sopris Village Drive is going to come to a 4-way stop and take a right turn and go directly behind the movie land buildings as they exist now. So when you are talking about emergency access up there, you need to incorporate whatever those current plans are, because it's not as shown on your drawings.
Do we want to get in?
We understand, and we will make sure that's incorporated. We did provide these plans for referral to CDOT as well, and they've reviewed them to ensure that it's in compliance, and I understand.
Let's come back
When-
to
yeah.
commissioner discussion.
One,
Do you have anything to talk about?
yeah, one other question. Sorry, on the employee housing, it's like 1.3 and they're up to 2, but by the way the code reads, you have to round up anyways, right?
Correct.
So there's not, okay, they're not giving anything additional.
Although I did think those units were really small. I was surprised Bach was so open to them. I
heard 553 and 643 square feet.
Yeah, we've got it in our packet, thanks.
It's my understanding that Bach at one point did not have a quorum during the meeting, and several members were missing. So
Okay.
I don't know how relevant that meeting was to the full depth of Bach.
I would say that we did have a quorum, and we had a quorum through voting on this item.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys feel strongly, or we can probably get our comments back to them when they see it again, right?
Yeah, staff was suggesting that we treat today's meeting as kind of an introduction meeting to all the comments, all the application, the discussion items, and then ultimately you can continue at the public hearing. And if you have, requests of Bach to review specific items, we could put it back to them for certain.
How many more times does this come back to us? If we do approve it today, or
we're not,
or this is
voting
just
today.
we're
Today.
just oh yeah, you don't even have the
We're just listening.
You don't have conditions this evening. It kind of depends on direction you provide and how many adjustments need to be made. There would be conditions provided at a future meeting, whether that be the next meeting or a following meeting. That probably depends on kind of P&Z comments.
Comment.
Good.
So a couple comments. So first of all, where have you all been? It's great to see everybody come out tonight, but you should know that we have been asked to approve and will be asked to approve other projects that have just as big an impact as this potentially has in terms of traffic, in terms of, what I would consider inadequate employee housing, and all kinds of other infrastructure things. So I would urge you, if this project concerns you, to stay abreast and look at the agenda for our meetings and see what projects are being brought to the table, because it can get lonely up here trying to advocate for more things or less things or whatever. I also appreciate when people come up with out-of-the-box thinking and try to think of things our community needs, and maybe there's another place for it. So I know several people had suggested the idea of a recreation center, and I suspect that that doesn't slot as easily into the old movie land space as we might think. But I think it's worth, not to take too much time on it, but maybe we could just spend a few minutes, like, is that a feasible idea, hearing from the applicants, or, why not?
I can go ahead and take that. I guess it's a hard question to answer. I should prefer standing if that's okay. I feel like my back is to too many people. It's a hard question to answer because I don't know what that would look like. But the reality is that the land's privately owned, and there is, barring I assume it being just donated to the city, I'm not sure how that would really work. And look, the goal has always been to make sure that this land stays in the family that's developed it for 40 years. And so I think that would be a hard endeavor. I might take this opportunity to just show, if I could, some revenue projections for the hotel. We're expecting to generate some pretty significant taxes to the town, right? $600,000 to RAFTA, $200,000 to the childhood district, millions of dollars to the school district. hotels, you all approved a lodging tax increase recently, which was smart. I'm not here to say we're hoteliers, right? You're asking the people who are coming here and putting a burden on your town to pay for this, right? And you all approved it. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to help fund these things. And so, you know, I'd almost turn this to say, use these taxes and build the rec center, right? I mean, there's $4.3 million of revenue over 10 years coming from this hotel with a 6% lodging tax. It's great.
Thanks.
Sure. I'll just go through my list at this point. I think the traffic study doesn't reflect reality. I think you telling us that Movie Land's creating 1,500 average daily trips is a falsehood. Maybe it did 10 years ago. I doubt it. I wasn't here 10 years ago. I can't speak to it. But I think you representing that you are lowering the traffic to that lot isn't fair to this community and what is going on in that reality. You're talking about people staying for longer stays, nurses, construction workers, and we need those types of people and places to house those people. I agree. But those people are leaving at 7 a.m. Those people are coming home at 5 p.m. They're in the traffic that was described by these neighbors. And so I don't think your comparison of peak hour is really fair. I think a peak hour of a movie theater isn't during peak hours of a hotel, especially one that is gearing towards longer stay folks. So I think diving a little more and being a little more realistic with some of those traffic counts and comparisons would be helpful for us to look at. I think the level of housing is minimal, and I would love to see that increased. I think the height is troublesome to me. I think, yes, in Willits, there are taller buildings. It's a slow ramp up. I personally would like to see this as a 2-story building. I do hear the community's concerns about impacts and parking and all of those things. I think, impacts to that private park is something that needs to be negotiated, and a little more information at the next presentation would be nice. How are you separating this development with screening and so it's not overshadowing Sobers Village Drive? So it just fits into the neighborhood a little more than a stout 3-story building. I agree the concept of a agreement with a monitoring well and the protection of the existing utilities is obviously key. I don't think that's really negotiable. And I think limiting the FAR by removing the existing PUD is something that we should have a discussion around and figure out a number for. That's what I wrote down.
That's great. Just had an idea while you were speaking that I used to travel with the dog. You stay in a hotel, you see a park, you take the dog to the park. It's what you do. So maybe the solution is to have you guys contribute to the maintenance of the park instead of trying to bar your patrons from going there. Just a thought.
Will it be pet friendly?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a list here as well. One of my biggest concerns. One of my biggest concerns is the protection of that water line that runs through your property. You've got a drainage facility immediately adjacent, just outside of the easement. As I look on the survey, that water line has not, is my understanding, been respected in past developments, and the concern for that water line and the amount of houses it serves as a private water line, not on the municipal system, is substantial. I think this development is doing an injustice to really the poor traffic movements that are already at this lot with a movie theater that is not currently operating. I myself have a post office box at UPS, and trying to make that left right immediately in while other cars are trying to pull out is abhorrent in this current condition with no parking vehicles in the lot. This site plan does not change that traffic movement at all and continues to make it worse because we are going to have more vehicles within the lot as it is. I think there's a lot of trying to depress the bad in this application and prop up the good. To take your own words at face value, you said you're not taking homes out of our inventory, but you're intentionally saying that you can't financially support an additional unit to help support inventory within our community. The lack of community room space, those items are all being brought in here to intentionally reduce the traffic counts and parking. I understand that, but it also then provides no benefit to an area that has a tremendous amount of TOD opportunity here that does support all of the adjacency and ability for us pedestrians to travel into and through. More so, as we look at as we look at traffic, I think that's another great example. We're using an 11th edition ITE manual, not the 12th from 2025, because it doesn't account for the limitations of traffic generated by a post-COVID movie theater world. And you're using that propped up traffic number against the hotel system that is naturally lower. I would agree that a movie theater in its heyday generated more traffic than a hotel, but it's not the movie theater industry that we have today. Checking in with the Hoffman, they have 113 beds and 82 units. They have 122 beds and 82 employees, and the Element has 113 beds and 30 employees. So I also think that the numbers that we're showing here from a employee count are also not relevant to the actuals that are surrounding just right here in Basalt. Those are the items that I wanted to bring up.
Certainly, the Hoffman has food and wine.
Hoffman absolutely has food and wine. I'm not saying they've got event center. They have some community benefit that is above and beyond this. But just as an anecdote to, I think the Element is a perfect comp. 113 beds, 113 units, and 30 employees. That would make their 94 right around 25 employees.
When we see you guys again, which I assume that we will, I think that some of the pertinent points that we need to address is the parking is going to be an issue. I don't know if this is going to get approved or not, but I know that that's going to be a sticking point. So you guys are going to want to address that. And I think the lighting is a pretty easy one to address, but we want to make the people comfortable with what's going to happen if it happens. Kyle, you want to take us home?
Yeah, I guess with any PD amendment, it becomes kind of a negotiation between the town and you guys. Right now, there's a lot of asks with nothing giving back. I don't think I've seen many applications. Personally work for a developer. I don't think I've ever submitted one without a bunch of variance requests with nothing that the town benefit, housing, being told you can't afford to put more housing in. So I think overall that's going to be very hard to accept. I would say that as a community, we should be a bit careful if we approve a C3 zoning that does open up a lot of different uses. And we could get something way different that people may like even less. And so overall, a hotel may not be what everyone wants, but private land, you guys can do what you want with it. But I think you've got a lot to overcome here. Really the height, I think you need to look at, understand getting a 3-story flat building isn't pretty either. And I'm not saying it's what you need to do, but thinking about how we're affecting the neighbors, the houses, kind of all that. So I know you got some work to do, but I think we've got a lot to think about too. So thank you.
Yeah. New York, if it were a 2-story building, it would probably get a lot of thumbs up. and you're kind of balancing that architectural interest, which is nice, but
Yes.
with also scale and scope of their surroundings. So it's a tough one. With that, do I need a motion to continue?
Yes, please.
Unless anybody has any more comments, but otherwise, I would entertain that.
I do a motion to continue to July 6th, is that right?
July 7th.
July 7th, okay.
Yes.
Second.
All in favor? And see you guys on July 7th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody need a break, or can we keep going? Yeah, we gotta.
Got Jack left.
All right.
Good to see you. Hi, Jim.
Maybe you left them knock you asleep.
I know. Take care. You please stop sharing the agenda. It's not.
Great. Public hearing for 739 Hillcrest Drive PUD amendment for the purpose of considering an application submitted by Glenn and Laura Yeager for a PUD amendment to establish the allowable total floor area for the property at 739 Hillcrest Drive at 5,474 square feet to accommodate upgraded first floor living facilities to accommodate individuals living with a disability under the Fair Housing Act accommodations.
Yeah, thank you. This is a public hearing to consider a PUD amendment. We have the applicant here this evening. We've got Glenn Yeager. It's a request for a PUD amendment submitted by Glenn and Laura Yeager to increase the allowable total floor area on the property at 739 Hillcrest above the townwide maximum of 5,000 total square feet to a proposed 5,474 total square feet. And it's in order to accommodate an expansion to the first floor of the residence by 605 square feet. And you've got the plans in your packet. And let me, there you go. So it's an expansion to add a first floor bedroom and bathroom that would be accessible for the applicant's mother that has recently become wheelchair bound. The application discusses that the applicant believes that the additional square footage is a reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act. In reviewing the request, staff consulted with the town attorney, and the town attorney provided a memo that's attached as Exhibit B in your packet materials. It outlines reasonable accommodations to be qualified by three factors. Whether the factors are whether the accommodation would undermine the legitimate purpose of the zoning regulations. The second one is whether consideration of the benefits that the accommodation would provide the handicapped individual. And the third would be whether alternatives exist to accomplish the benefits of the accommodation more efficiently. And so as some additional background, staff offered the applicant the potential to decommission some of the upstairs space so as not to exceed the 5,000 square foot limit. And that would be by removing some ducting to existing space and then filling existing space to be decommissioned with blown insulation so it couldn't be used in the future so that it would stay under the 5,000 square foot. And that's how staff has worked with prior floor area issues at building permit with applicants. Staff doesn't question the benefits of allowing the first floor to become accessible living space for the applicant's mother, but staff notes that if it were not a Fair Housing Act scenario, that staff would not support such an amendment to add additional square footage beyond what's allowed. In this case, staff feels that decommissioning approximately 470 square foot is a potentially reasonable alternative to granting the 500 square foot over the townwide maximum. However, staff recognizes that this is a difficult application to navigate because of the Fair Housing Act considerations. So this evening, staff would suggest taking applicant comments, taking public comments, and having P&Z discussion and making a recommendation to council on the request. If P&Z is inclined to support the amendment, staff has included some draft conditions that P&Z could recommend.
James, is this just a first reading for us or the only reading for us?
No, this is probably the only reading. If you're comfortable making a recommendation, if you have questions or need additional information, you could continue it to a future date. But staff thinks this is one we should be able to handle in one meeting.
Okay.
Does this go to council for approval?
It does.
Okay.
Glenn, do you have any comments?
I do.
Great.
Is this the time, James?
Yeah, let me share your slide here.
Just please speak into the mic.
Will do.
Is this the slide you would like? Okay.
One more.
One more
slide. This is good.
Okay.
The Eagle County Roadmap to Aging Well was presented to council last month. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see any of that. But one of the takeaways from that study was the ability to age well in place. And their comment was that this is one of the most talked about and important issues facing our aging demographics in this community. And they've come up with some solutions in the near term, in the midterm, and in the long term. But one of them is to have a more expedited process to request variances, look at existing homes. Maybe some of the zoning that was passed in the past didn't consider the needs of these aging people. And we're running into that in my home right now. We are requesting a minor PUD amendment to allow a first floor accessible bedroom and bathroom addition so that my mother can safely age with our family. My mother is wheelchair bound after a serious stroke and has no ability to navigate stairs, bathroom, or bedrooms. She requires a ground floor bedroom and bathroom specifically configured for safe transfers using an Arjo Seraplus sit-to-stand lift. Staff position is they believe decommissioning upstairs bedroom space to stay under the 5,000 square foot limit combined with building the first floor addition is preferable. I respectfully disagree that this is the best and most reasonable solution. Decommissioning current space adds significant cost, complexity, disruption to the existing home, limits accommodations for caregivers, and places a higher emphasis on total square footage than creating a cost-effective, efficient process to accommodate my mother's medical necessity. The modest 475 square foot variance is the most efficient and medically appropriate approach. The town attorney noted 3 things that need to be considered, as James pointed out. Number 1, whether the accommodation would undermine the legitimate purposes and effects of the existing zoning regulations. Per HUD DOJ joint statements on reasonable accommodations in 2004, a requested change constitutes a fundamental alteration only when it alters the essential nature of the zoning program. This site-specific, disability-driven adjustment does not change the single-family residential character, impose an undue burden on the town, or undermine the purpose of the first floor area limit. The second consideration, the benefits of the accommodation would provide the handicapped individual. It's clear, and staff has even acknowledged that. And number 3, whether alternatives exist to accomplish the benefits more efficiently. And this is where James and I disagree. In examining the factors outlined by the town attorney, staff believes that the benefits to the handicapped individual of the additional square footage requested in the order to make the first floor livable to the individual in the wheelchair are positive. That said, staff believes that the alternatives exist to increase the allowable square footage by decommissioning space on the upper floor. This cannot be considered more efficient or cost-effective than what we're proposing. James also brought up the fact of an unwanted precedent being set. Approving this request would not set a precedent for other homeowners to exceed the 5,000 square feet. This is a site-specific, reasonable accommodation under the Fair Housing Act for a documented disability. Each FHA request must be evaluated individually based on medical need. This is not a general zoning change. It is a narrow exception required by federal law. We are willing to consider minor adjustments to the toilet area if the commission feels they are necessary, provided they do not compromise the safety and functionality of the lift-assisted design. This modest increase has minimal neighbor impact, keeps lot coverage very low, 11%. We have 0.88 acres on our site. So the allowable FAR is 30%. We're only at 11%. And allows my mother to safely age in place with her family rather than face institutional care. We respectfully ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
How does your mom get around the house now?
The wheelchair and the lift. She's in Chicago.
So she doesn't live here now. Okay. When you said the aging in place, it confused me. Okay.
She is in Chicago. My dad is the primary caregiver, but he's just been diagnosed with kidney cancer. So his ability to care for her long-term is in question.
Yeah, I'm sorry for your parents' health challenges. I think it's something we all...
It's brought the family
Many people I know now are going through at this age.
Yeah.
James, there was a letter in the packet from CARP attorney.
Yeah.
Is that our attorney or is that the
That's
applicant's?
our attorney. CARP New Hanlon is Jeff
okay.
Conklin.
So they addressed it not being a precedent-setting event, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was a high consideration of mine, so my other question...
Can I put a motion out to approve, or we just to...
I have a question, then we have to do some public comment.
Oh, this is public
Do you
comment?
have HOA approval?
We do not have an active HOA.
No.
They're in Pinyon Pines, so not
Right.
the Aspen Junction HOA. Pinyon Pines.
So there's no HOA, so there's no HOA approval required?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's convenient. So we are going to ask questions, then take public comment, and then we can entertain a motion.
How long have you owned the property?
6 years.
And looking at the plan provided, we are projecting the addition outside of the current footprint of the home?
Correct.
And what will the setback be to that side yard? Because it's shifting southeast.
It's greater than the 10-foot that's required.
Greater than the 10 foot that's required. Are we, is the addition going to the west or the south?
A little bit to the west and a little bit to the south.
A little bit to the west and a little bit to the south.
Yes.
We're like an angle.
I can go back to the plan.
Taking up sort of the flagstone patio.
Correct.
That you
Yep.
have down there.
That's
Sorry, I'm
correct.
looking at your home on aerial. I'm
Yeah.
not. Are you demoing the decks, the exterior decks, as a part of this?
Yes.
So there is a deck area reduction, or are you maintaining the same deck area? as
We
being
will be
proposed?
removing the interior deck that is right off the back of the kitchen right now.
Yep.
But we will be expanding the deck to more align with the back of the home then.
Okay.
Taking into
Sorry,
consideration the
I see that.
slope.
No further questions.
Mike, Cindy? Questions
just
of
comments.
staff or applicant? We'll do that after.
Okay.
I know we had one gentleman here that also wanted to make comments. Well, Greg as well? No,
Yeah,
some-
the
other
other
guy.
gentleman was there, and I don't know where he went.
Yeah, and Greg, you have Comments?
I just have a couple.
Please step up to the mic.
Here you go.
Here, Greg, do you just want the?
I got it.
Okay.
So weird.
He left.
Okay.
My comments are more questions.
Would you, just for the record, name and address?
Sure. Greg Sugars, 640 Hillcrest Drive, Aspen Junction. Where Glenn and Laura live is what in Pinyon Pines is like a donut hole that's in the middle of Aspen Junction. So they're surrounded by Aspen Junction, but they're not part of it. So he doesn't have any HOA.
Oh, interesting. I did not
Yeah.
know that. Okay.
Yeah. So the questions I have is that he initially was said that the home is 4,400 square feet.
It's bigger.
The square footage,
4870.
yeah, 4870.
It's 4870, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's why I need the variance, because if it was 4,400 square feet, and you were getting 600, you don't need it.
Right.
It's not my decision, but my only question is that there are 5 bedrooms on the second floor. I'm familiar with the house. I know the people used to live there before. 5 bedrooms on the second floor, none on the first floor. And I guess you did the math, but it would seem like there's plenty of space to convert a bedroom in the existing downstairs and not have to decommission anything upstairs. And wouldn't that be more cost effective and just as efficient? I'm not doing the math, but it just seems like you're going through a big process, and this concept of decommissioning part of the upstairs seems pretty abhorrent to me. And I wouldn't do that unless I had to, but I don't think that you even have to go anywhere near there. You can go online, there's plenty of pictures of the house downstairs. It's a very open downstairs area that wouldn't be, we did some work on my house with my leg. It would not be that difficult to create a bedroom situation downstairs. But if this is what you want to do and it's okay, fine, but I hate the thought of taking portion of the upstairs and saying, well, we have to get rid of that in order to make this work downstairs. It doesn't seem to, I don't know, jive very well. Anyway.
So you're
sorry
okay
about
with the addition and the extra FAR, but you don't agree with decommissioning the space?
It's not my position.
So if you have an opinion, you can tell us.
Oh,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
think.
My opinion is that I have I've had disability in my family, not just myself. I have a tremendous amount of empathy for this. If you don't live it, you can't imagine what it's like. It's a totally different world all the time, and so you have to make adjustments. I was just thinking that I'm wondering if there weren't even better options associated with this, and if the only other concern I would have is if they were violating some kind of town setback rules, because in our neighborhood I know of 3 homes that have violated the setbacks, and once one person did, it was like open season. So I just want to make sure that whatever they do here, they don't violate whatever that setback is. Our setbacks might be more strict than what they are in the subdivision he's in is called Pinyon Pines. I don't know the answer.
Sounds like it's not an issue.
Doesn't sound like it's an issue.
Not an issue with
So then-
setbacks, no.
And I will also say where he's doing it would have like no impact on any of the neighbors. It's off the back of his house. I'm not talking like you're not here. It's Glenn, right?
Yes, sir.
It's off the back of Glenn's house. He's not going to impact anybody in that regard. The only thing I would think is that you're going to need a ramp. You need to have some place to have a ramp because you don't have one right now, unless you think you can get through the garage and not need one, but I'd keep that in mind. But it's fine, and I don't think it can possibly, as long as everybody dots the i's and crosses the t's, it cannot possibly set a precedent for somebody else, because this is a very legitimate situation that is happening more frequently as people, are aging and living a lot longer. So there you have it. And I'm so sorry for what happened to your mom.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, I really am.
Any other public comment?
If you're online and would like to make public comment on this item, please raise your hand. It's like we don't have any.
Okay, let's close public comment at 8:15. Commissioner discussion, anything to talk about?
I'll just say quickly, I do have a little concern about the precedent setting. I mean, not that it's going to make me vote against it, but just the fact that one of your rationales for it is that several homes in Pinyon Pines already exceed 5,000 square feet. That just, that's trying to use the precedent of those other homes to justify yours. So, yeah, I guess I don't buy the not precedent setting, but I don't think that's enough to turn it down in this case.
We also had the comments from our attorney in the packet that said it was not precedent setting.
Well,
That's
yeah,
what
no, I know, I
made
saw that
me
too,
feel
so.
better.
But I just think, I think
Yeah.
maybe that line should just be struck if you're trying to run that by other people.
You're calling me out.
Gentlemen?
I think the fire department clarified the variance request that they were willing to give as far as the fire suppression system.
I thought that if anybody needed a fire suppression system, it's somebody that's mobility challenged. So I thought maybe just in the new area, but I know it's a huge cost, and we listened to the fire department.
I wouldn't disagree. I also think increasing the footprint of the home is a little iffy, but I think decommissioning interior spaces is not something that we should do.
Yeah, and how would you enforce that? I mean, it
It's-
doesn't really seem realistic.
I've had to do it on a project, and it just feels really bad.
Kyle, do you have a motion earlier in mind?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Any conditions?
No conditions.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go, Glenn.
Thank you.
Unanimous approval.
Thank you.
Kyle, can I please clarify something? Are you recommending it with the conditions that we had in the staff memo?
Didn't he submit just though for the full square footage?
Yeah, and the conditions allow for the full square footage, but there's some certain administrative items that you have to do, like record an amendment to the PUD control document. So that's kind of the crux of the conditions.
James, I could barely hear that, so I didn't quite follow.
So I was asking Kyle whether he accepts the conditions that are in the staff memo that go along with approving the variance. And, the most specific one is administratively, you have to do an amendment to the PUD control document to reflect that in the legal recorded documents. And so, that's one of the provisions.
But it's just for that individual lot, not for the whole subdivision. Okay.
Is that an administrative approval, or does that mean he has to come back?
No, that's administrative. It's administrative. But it's something that has to be done, to record it in the public record for future knowledge of owners that it was specifically approved.
Glenn, do you have any issue with that?
It sounds like something I would be doing with my attorney to move the process along, right?
So Kyle, will you bend your...
I think what James had outlined in his presentation was if there were two options, the decommissioning or approving, which you just did. And then he laid out like, okay, there's 4 things that need to happen after approval, which seemed to me to be all administrative.
Yeah, they're all administrative items, but they're important administrative items. So staff would just like to clarify that that's part of your motion.
I take no issue with the administrative.
So yeah, then your question, my answer then is yes to your question of that.
Okay, thanks.
We
That's all I
include those
needed.
in our motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just needed that clarity. Thank you.
The applicant still has to apply with all the tree removal permits, all the fire hardening, all of the building permit requirements for good quality
Understood.
construction.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
You've been
thank you.
approved.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think our next applicants are out in the hallway.
Should I get started or wait for them to join
We
us?
are getting going, Eric.
Nice to see you, Greg.
Take care.
It's been a while. James, they're coming?
What'd you say?
They're coming?
Yeah.
Should I wait or can I get started?
We can get going.
Okay. 4A, public hearing and introduction to Jadwin Black Mountain final plan application for the purpose of considering an application submitted by Jadwin Park LLC for PUD final plat environmentally sensitive area, Reach 2 floodplain review. Annexation and associated development review actions necessary to develop 64 residential dwelling units, 12 commercial lodging cabins, and associated infrastructure on the property located at 431 Emma Road.
Thank you. We have the applicants here this
Quite a bit
evening.
familiar.
We've got Bridger Smith and Michael Forrest and additional team members that they can introduce. As Rob indicated, this is a public hearing on the Jadwin final plan application to construct 64 dwelling units and 12 short-term rental cabins at 431 Emma Road. And the property is just down valley of the post office. The P&Z saw the application at both the sketch and the preliminary plan levels. And the property subject to the application is 9 acres. It currently contains a single-family house as well as a mobile home. And as noted, the applicant received sketch and preliminary plan approvals. P&Z, as I noted, recommended approval at both the sketch and the preliminary plan levels. The final plan review is primarily to ensure compliance and consistency with the preliminary plan approvals, as well as to work on any kind of hanging details. As I noted, the proposal is for 64 residential units in the area that's shown in yellow. They're proposed to be a mix of multifamily and townhome units, and then 12 short-term rental cabins that are in the area shown in purple on the map here. The glamping that was in the sketch plan application was removed at the sketch plan application level by the council. So that's no longer under consideration. And so the applicant has proposed a total of 32 deed restricted units in the project, so that 50% of the total units would be deed restricted. 24 of those are proposed as category units, and 8 RRO units. In addition, at the sketch plan level, the applicant had proposed a daycare core and shell on what is called the dog leg, which is this area that runs off down valley. And the council did not want to have the daycare be outside the urban growth boundary. So in lieu of that, the applicant provided a contribution of $700,000 towards community benefits in lieu of having the daycare. And so also, as part of the sketch plan review, the council was looking for additional community benefit. So the applicant created what's called the first tracks units, where they've proposed that 20 of the free market units in the project would essentially be advertised for locals for the first 90 days of advertisement when a unit comes available. And so that was seen as additional community benefit. I won't go through all of the project aspects since we're running late, and we'll let the applicant go into that as part of their application review. Staff did identify a series of discussion items. They're similar to the discussion items that you had at the sketch and the preliminary plan levels. They included master plan compliance, the unit mix and unit size, the affordable housing livability requirements, as well as the occupancy priorities. On the affordable housing aspects, the BOC commission reviewed the elements and supported the proposed housing mix, as well as the size of the units and the livability aspects of the units. On the transportation improvements side of things, the applicant is required to provide a dedicated right turn lane at the intersection of Midland Avenue and Emma Road by the post office for down valley traffic. And then also as part of the sketch and preliminary plan approvals, the applicant is required to make improvements to the slip lane intersection with Emma Road to provide better turning radius by the post office area as well. From a parks and open space and trails scenario, the applicant is proposing to dedicate open space on the north edge of the property, about 4 acres of it. The applicant is proposing, consistent with the preliminary plan, to have a public trail to the river, and as part of that public trail, it would be field fit so that it wouldn't impact the native flowers that are on the property in the wetland area. In addition, other discussion items included the water rights at the preliminary plan phase. The applicants requested a reduction or a waiver of water tap fees. The council was not supportive of that at the preliminary plan, and the applicants are doing some more work on that as they're going through the process. But ultimately, the water tap fee waiver is a council discussion item. In terms of wildfire mitigation, the town just adopted the new state wildfire code, and so the applicants have a couple of adjustments to make to their landscaping plan to comply with those new code requirements, and the applicants are working on that. And then in terms of the sustainable building regulations, staff anticipates conditions that they meet the SBR requirements that are in place at the time of permit, which is a typical requirement of the town. With the dogleg parcel, this is really the main adjustment from the preliminary plan. This is the dogleg parcel right here that's also under the same ownership. The applicant is now proposing to annex this piece for the construction of a single-family house to replace the existing residence on the site. This is primarily a function of the fact that in Pickens County, if they were to annex the rest of this property, this would create a non-conforming lot. And so Pickens County has supported annexing this property for a single-family purpose into the town, even though it's outside the town's urban growth boundary. In the master plan, the urban growth boundary is identified as a strict urban growth boundary where urban level development is not encouraged outside the urban growth boundary. And so, it's a discussion of whether this is urban level development to allow for a single family house. But that's a discussion item for consideration. Other topics for discussion include the phasing and vested rights. The applicant has proposed to require that the plats all be recorded for the individual buildings within 7 years of the approvals, and that would give them 3 years once the plat is recorded in order to build and start construction on the units. So that is generally consistent with the Park Modern and Lake Modern projects that you've seen in terms of vested rights, but it's a greater period than is required by the code. The code has a standard 3 years of vested rights, so that's for consideration, but this is consistent with what was approved at the preliminary plan phase. So this evening, given that we're behind, staff has identified this meeting as an introduction meeting to the final plan application, an introduction meeting to discussion items, and then ultimately, after you take public comments and applicant comments, staff would suggest providing some initial P&Z comments and then continuing the public hearing to July 7th and identifying if you need additional information at a future meeting to make a recommendation. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and turn it over to the applicants to go into more detail on the application.
Hey, thank you. Hi, everybody. We have Ramsey Fulton on family vacation, but available via Zoom. He's our architect. And Ramsey, you want to kick it off here if you could?
Yeah, sure. I'll just jump right in. Thanks, guys. Sorry, out there in person, obviously with how long this project's been going on, and we're eager to kind of keep the ball rolling and not push it off because of personal obligations. So let me start this slideshow here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, James. And so to start off, just for the benefit of P&Z members who might not have been following this project through the years, I want to briefly run you through the intentional process that's landed us here today, starting with an idea that came about during the 2020 visioning of during the community visioning of the 29 that took place in 2019 and 2020 for the master plan. In mid-2020, the new owners of this project started master planning and development with our team after seeing the roadmap of community interest taking shape with the feedback and work sessions behind the 2020 master plan. The then draft master plan showed this property in conjunction with the neighboring Stotts parcel and how it could be incorporated into the town as a key parcel to support the community's growth, vitality, and need for housing that stabilize community members at risk of displacement, including density recommendations, open space allocations, and appropriate land use designations within the property. Initial analysis proved that the largest challenge to realizing these goals was the limitations of the site constraints, including wetlands, floodplains, and utility easements. In December of that year, we prepared our first master planning package for staff to review and consider. This spawned into 2 more years of analysis, design studies, staff feedback, neighbor communications, utility, county, CDOT, fire department, and engineering feedback ahead of preparing for an annexation application. Jumping forward to the culmination of planning and outreach to neighbors and referral agencies, we arrived at our first formal planning application. Shown here for engagement in public hearings and public committee feedback, this opening opportunity included 68 residential units, 35% as affordable housing above the code required 20%, as well as 12 fishing cabins as hospitality offerings, and 7 glamping sites, plus amenities and recreational elements provided in the extensive open space north of the housing, plus land dedication of the dog leg for child care and community benefit. During sketch plan approvals, many topics of consideration were weighed and accommodations made, from improvements to fire access, police management concerns, traffic issues, architectural response, project density, and of course, the amount of affordable housing. Some of the most noteworthy accommodations at the request of the public, P&Z, and council include the following: a move to 64 residential units and 50% as affordable housing, above the code required 20% and the initial offering of 35, including the introduction of the first tracks housing priority for locals program. At this time, we also removed all 7 glamping sites, as well as mostly all improvements other than trail access to the open space. We further agreed to a $700,000 gift to the town for the community benefit as a better contribution to benefit the community than the land donation previously proposed. These items, along with the planned improvements to Emma and Midland Avenue, resulted in sketch plan approval in February of 2024. Last summer, we once again engaged with Bach, P&Z, and council for further discussion, consideration, and feedback. After illustrating refinements related to our traffic and intersection design improvements on Emma Road, additional composting and trash area refinements, as well as a clarity on ADA compliant units and accessible design, just to mention a few, resulted in approval to continue our work in refining the design proposal and annexation of the Jadwin parcel into the town of Basalt. Bringing us to today's final application. Current updates to the application reflect technical refinements and resolutions to previously open topics as requested by staff, as well as further vetting and development of the civil, landscape, and architectural designs with an intention to not make material changes to the prior approvals. Our proposal summary once again illustrates the development of 4 multifamily residential buildings with 2 two-story structures and 2 three-story structures, with 1 two-story and 1 three-story building designed as a deed-restricted community housing building shown in orange here, as well as 12 single-standing and duplex townhomes, 12 short-term rental cabin structures operating as a single hotel with on-site management, as well as an extensive dedication area of open space, lightly touched for river access and per the direction of Post, wildlife and ecological consultants, and river hydrologists. Our final approval design includes a consistent land use, zoning, and density model as previously proposed, and a consistency in our response to the Black Mountain Master, or the Basalt Master Plan and subsequent feedback. It also includes a consistency in our approach to the neighboring parcels, open space, public frontage, and Emma Road. The architectural designs and character remain the same and consistent with prior approvals, which are a result of sketch and preliminary review feedback with consideration to the importance of apparent scale and materiality reflective of the site's context and community interests. A further detailed and refined and defined community housing offering and clearly defined public benefits include 81% deed-restricted housing, which includes the 50% category units and the 31% fast first tracks units, 4 acres of open space and trail, a $700,000 gift to the town for community benefit, Emma Road and Midland Avenue improvements, betterment of public access to the river, provided vitality as envisioned in the master plan through the river cabin hospitality, and as well as pedestrian connection to the old town. As a final note, before we turn this over back to staff, we are excited to announce that with the remapping of the floodplains that was officially adopted on June 5th, we are now clear to proceed with our final approvals and prepare for construction to begin. Last week, we met with Bach, and after great discussion on affordable products, units, and categories, we received unanimous approval. We also met with the town technical review committee in discussion of final approval comments and are preparing a letter in response to that after discussion. Now we would like to turn it back over to you for questions and discussion, and thank you for listening to the presentation.
Yeah, and staff would suggest we're open to questions from P&Z at this point.
Questions?
Are there, I'm having trouble loading the packet, are there any pedestrian improvements provided on the Emma Road, Midland Ave? Can you just describe them briefly?
We have an 8-foot wide pedestrian trail that connects from the existing trail by the post office. Oh, sorry. I'm tired. Okay. We are proposing an 8-foot wide pedestrian trail from the existing trail by the post office south along our property line to the end of our property they'll get back on the road and go to the existing trail.
I'm more referring to like the actual intersection. We're proposing a larger slip lane, right turn lane through there. Is there any additional pedestrian safety that you're implementing at that intersection?
The right turn lane at the slip lane, there's no pedestrian access across that intersection. But at the right turn lane at Midland Avenue, we'll have a pedestrian connection from the east side of Emma Road across to the library with 2 different handicap ramps.
Okay. So basically from the post office to that other corner.
Yes.
There will be connection.
Yes.
Okay.
Which there is not right now that I believe.
I think there's maybe one ramp. There's a ramp on the post office side and not on the other side. So as part of this realignment of that sidewalk, there would be an ADA ramp on that corner.
There would be a
We'll have one at that corner.
No further questions.
I had a couple follow-ups, because I was not here for the second appearance of this. I remember we had some discussion about whether 90 days was long enough for somebody to
bid on and get a loan approval and all that? Was that ever?
For the first tracks?
Yeah, for the first tracks, yeah, sorry.
From 30 to 90 days.
It was 30 originally?
I think so.
It was.
Oh, wow, okay. Okay, so 90 days seems like, and is that program something that you are going to administer yourselves?
The town of Basalt will administer it.
Okay, good. I was gonna, just for transparency. And then with the deed restricted units, I saw that the waiver from the traditional categories in the town is still the case, but I remember there were already 12 units that were spoken for supposedly by these other groups. Has that gone away? Is it just now going to go in order of priority, or are we still looking at 12 or so units that are pretty much out of the pool for the rest of us?
Yeah, the letters of intent that we had, originally at sketch plan with the fire department, the school district, and Aspen Valley Ski Club are still intact right now.
How many units is it? Isn't it
That's a
12?
total of 10.
10.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then the other thing we did was we added the the Forest Service to the preferential, James.
To the first occupancy priority in the town code, which is basically essential employees in Basalt.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's it.
And that was reviewed with Bach in great detail last week. And we kind of batted it back and forth, and they kind of felt that for this one project, that it was acceptable to have a couple additions to Tier 1 because of the letters of interest and how they expressed interest in these projects early on.
Understood.
I was just a question about the dog leg. There's one existing single-family home there?
So if you look at our lot includes the dog leg, right? But when the urban growth line was drawn, it didn't take into account our lot. It just kind of drew a straight line. So the dog leg right now, there is a family living there in a home, and part of our conditions to approval at sketch plan was that they would get priority for one of the deed restricted units, if something went on the dog leg, which originally, as you know, was potentially a daycare center, then it didn't. What basically happened here, as we've progressed this and in discussions with, James and the staff and the county, after the annexation, the dog leg parcel would kind of just be this left kind of non-conforming, and there'd really be nothing you could do essentially ever on that parcel with a non-conforming kind of very old, single-family home right now that is going to need to be replaced. So we wanted to essentially legalize that now so that we could replace that home at some point.
So you're taking down one single-family home and building a new single-family home?
That's it.
And it's going to be free market?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify it was one for one. I couldn't quite tell it was on the parcel.
Yeah.
And then I just noticed in the renderings, they showed a nice line of trees screening the buildings from the highway. I'm hoping that those weren't just for the drawings and that they will actually be a nice line of trees there.
Yes. I mean, it's certainly important to us, having some screening, from the highway. As you know, if you've been to the site, it's, particularly close. And we've been working with our landscape architect, which is Connect One, and CDOT and everybody else to do what's possible to screen as best as we can. And these renderings obviously take, balance between showing mature trees and not mature trees. So we're really trying to show kind of a middle ground of where the project should look, within a few years.
Great, thanks. That's all I got.
And that's in compliance with the new WUI codes that we are trying to do, or is that some of the modifications that you are going to need to make?
That's some of the modifications that Christine with Connect One is working on currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also a set of boulder walls to add more privacy to those lower level units from the highway. Should help.
Okay.
3 or 4 feet tall. Create more privacy.
I'm sure it's in the packet somewhere, and it's a large packet, haven't found it yet. How much of the free market can the applicant build before deed restriction has to go up?
The way it is set up in the preliminary plan approvals and likely would be carried over into the final plan conditions is that the affordable housing has to come on proportionally with the free market housing. So if they're building a building of free market, they have to build a building of affordable, basically.
And that's different than the Park Modern development then?
It is different than Lake Modern. Lake Modern was allowed to build 2 free market buildings, and then with the 3rd free market building, the first affordable housing building has to come on. So, and then the second affordable housing building comes with, I think, the 5th free market building.
Is there a reason we're not matching? I mean, this is more restrictive than that. Is that just because this is what they originally proposed, or we pushed back on something more lenient?
You know, it's generally how we require it with annexations. This is an annexation, whereas parcel 5 of Sopers Meadows was not an annexation. So we can have flexibility to look at more community benefit. So this is one of those items that was negotiated kind of with the review.
Okay, thank you.
Timing.
I remember during preliminary plan, we had county lines running through the centers of some of the townhomes. Is that still the case? Or is that part of the modification?
You want to speak to it? Or?
No, you can.
The county line now has been adjusted on the plan. The county line hasn't moved, but the plan changed to allow for it to not go through 2 of the 5 units that it originally went through. And now the 3 units that it still goes through it goes through the wall, so it doesn't, it separates the deck from the unit, but it doesn't go through the middle of the units.
So there's no domain issues, or if someone steps out on their deck, then there becomes domain issues?
They go into a different county when they step out of their deck on 3 units.
It's exciting.
But it's not, at least it's not in the middle of a room. Okay. It's kind of like.
There's a defining line.
There's a defining line.
Okay.
That the police department will know, this is what, they'll know that.
And so it was an issue at the preliminary plan review. The town attorney worked with the prosecutors of the 2 counties to get a better understanding of how prosecuting crimes would work across 2 jurisdictions. And apparently it happens all the time. So
cool.
The concern went away to a great extent.
Okay.
Have you guys ever asked title if that's an issue when you sell these, by any means?
No, it's like James said, it's quite frequent, and yeah, it's just, I mean, it's taxed. They figure it out, from the assessors figure it out, kind of everybody just kind of figures it out.
That sounds toxic.
Yeah.
Paying 2 different taxes, 2 different, wow.
Yeah.
As it relates to the water table, dewatering and our downstream residences, what steps is the town taking to protect those wells that are potentially adjacent during site disturbance and some potential contamination opportunities, dewatering activities, et cetera?
Well, I think we're going to require best management practices in their construction management plan, in terms of, necessary silt fencing, necessary kind of separation between the improvements in grading and the wetland area itself.
Is there any monitoring discussions that town staff, engineering, public works has had related to the water supply of those adjacent neighbors?
We haven't really had those discussions, but maybe, Stephanie, you have some thoughts on that?
The state requires you to have a stormwater discharge permit, and so that we monitor it through that. Like, I don't know if you were here when we were doing the sewer line down Midland Avenue and dewatering. We had this big giant balloon out on the park where the water went into that.
Yep.
It settled, and then we discharged the water after it was clean. So that's tested when we're going through the construction process. It's pretty well monitored through the state.
Great.
This is a public hearing. Do we taking public comment?
Yes, please.
Do we have anybody that would like to comment? Is there anybody online?
If you're online and would like to make comments on this application to the P&Z, please raise your hand. Doesn't look like
Okay,
it.
let the record show we opened public comment at 8:50 PM and we closed it at 8:50 PM. So we either have more discussion or a motion would just be to continue, correct?
Be to continue, yeah, and at a future meeting, staff will bring back draft conditions for consideration.
Can I make one comment to the applicant?
Sure.
My only, concern in a good way is like, it's almost too good to be true of how much you're offering. And you're locking yourself in. And obviously you started this 6 years ago now. Prices, interest rates. And there's no way for you guys to get out of this if rates keep climbing, if prices, and you'd have to come back again. We're at the final stage. You probably wouldn't want to do it, but if there's anything you'd want to add that gives yourself ways to bump up categories or something, if it's tied to a price index or something. I'm just concerned that we approve this, but it never can happen because financially it just doesn't pencil with all the deed restriction. So I appreciate what you're giving. You got an opportunity to like give yourself a little bit of leeway maybe with where costs have gone. So.
Well, I'll add a comment to that real quick. We did ask for some waiver of fees in order to make this model a little more financially viable. And even though those were not accepted the last round, if P&Z had a position where they wanted to recommend to council that they're reconsidered to waive some of those fees, that's going to help this project get built and make sure it doesn't have a fate like you were thinking. It could be a possibility. So just throw that out there. That's something we could talk about next time we're in session. But I'll leave it at that.
I do want to clarify, though, that the town was supportive of waiving the parkland fees through the open space dedication.
Which was how much?
It's considerable. It's like 10,000 a unit. So.
How many units?
64.
Okay.
It was just the water tap fees that the council wasn't supportive of.
And this is on Basalt sanitation as well?
Yes.
No, look, I appreciate you bringing that up, Kyle, because it's not often kind of part of the discussion throughout the process. I think where we've spent a lot of time underwriting as well, because it definitely keeps us up at night. The last thing we'd want to do is overpromise and underdeliver. And, James and, some of the people here have been there, we've been doing this together now for many, many years. And I'd hate to have all that work done and not, succeed. I think where, we do have some flexibility after the fact, and which kind of keeps us up at night is, and this is something maybe, existentially that from a planning perspective, maybe you give developers a little bit more leeway, is locking in, the unit categories attached to a unit gets tricky because, we have to decide now how many 2 bedrooms at this income level, at this category level, this one's an RO, this one's not an RO, and you're guessing, quite frankly, right now where the demand is going to be. And throughout our discussions with some of these like affordable housing partners that want to buy these units, they've actually warned us because they've been in situations where they thought there was going to be demand here and it wasn't there. We do have some flexibility with the town. We can come back, later if we're having problems, let's say renting or selling a category 2 studio, but we have the fire department that wants it, but they want to put a category 4 person in it. There is a mechanism to come back to council, and maybe it comes back to P&Z or Bach, where we could come back and kind of play with that Tetris. But that's why we're, we're sort of pushing for some of these waivers of fees, and if there's other ideas that you guys have, we'd certainly be open to them to make sure that this project, is feasible.
Have you checked in with the, the Western Regional Housing? Because I feel like they do a pretty good job of tracking what size of units people are really looking for.
Yeah, we have.
And I found it kind of surprising, actually, what they're like. It's not necessarily what you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that, what we don't expect, like, for example, on some of the larger units, family units, people, I think, in the Valley, families still want that, home with a white picket fence, and being in an apartment style living per se is maybe not ideal for some people. But we have consulted with them, we've met with them, and we plan to work with them more once we get final approval. A lot of this is a little bit of chicken and egg. Like, these groups don't really want to talk to you until you know what you have, and you sort of don't know what you have until you're done with the process.
Yeah.
And it's like, which do you plan, you kind of have to set it and then go back to them and say, okay, now we've got approval. We tried to bake them into the process from day one, which we did, all these groups, and talking to them. And there was direction also from the town of Basalt during the master plan. They identified areas that they saw need for certain size units and things like that.
But just that the Western group might help take some of the risk out
Yeah.
of deciding which ones,
Right,
what size
It's a
to
good
go.
idea too, yeah.
Any other comments, discussion?
I would just say waiving fees, soft costs is such a small percentage of an overall project that, yeah, it helps. But once you're in it and built, like, you've done all the work, and it's trying to get out of it, right? And if you're stuck with certain things. So I get, like, thank you for bringing this. Totally appreciate it. I hope you guys can pull it off. I mean, it's.
Thank you. We hope we can too.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons for the vesting,
Well,
because
things aren't going to get cheaper, though.
Right, but, a lot of that planning and getting partners as, together to do it, there are companies in the Valley, both, essential sort of service companies and private companies that have budgets to purchase units to bridge that gap and help us bridge that gap, and we're talking to them as well. So once the project's approved, is like the next step is to build that, kind of capital stack, if you will, which will begin as soon as we really know we have something locked in and people can actually rely on what we're telling them. So the sooner we get approval, the better.
With that, we can entertain a motion.
Motion to continue?
All in favor? You guys were continued.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for waiting around.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to have several people still here. Oh, that, from that side. Night and day.
Not quite. We got one more
This
item.
is like the old council days. Are you still going? You got one more for us?
One more for you.
Okay. This is a public hearing
I don't think I can do it.
for 20526 Highway 82 initial town zoning for the purpose of considering an application submitted by the town of Basalt to provide the town's police public works parcel at 20526 Highway 82 with initial town zoning upon annexation into Basalt. The zoning proposed for the property is P.
Approved. Out. Yes.
Denied.
Go home.
Thank you. I'll be quick on this, I promise. This is a request of the town to zone the 20526 Highway 82 property that the town purchased a couple years ago with an initial town zoning of, public, P public, in association with the annexation. The town is currently in the process of developing a program for the site for the police department and public works joint facility. Staff believes that the P-Public Zone District is the appropriate zoning to provide the property upon annexation, and it allows for establishment of the development program through a P-Public Zone District site plan review. So staff, because it is a town property, doesn't have to jump through all the typical annexation hoops that a private development has to go through per the state statutes. So staff is supportive of this initial zoning of the property to P-Public. And so staff this evening would recommend you take public comments and then provide commission discussion. And if you're comfortable, you could recommend that council zone the property as P-Public upon annexation. And staff would be happy to answer questions as well.
So are there any concerns about it? Like, I'm not really sure what we're evaluating.
Well, there's not too much to it. Staff doesn't have any concerns. We really can't show you a development program yet because it's in the process of being established with the town's consultants, and they're working with the town engineer as well as the Public Works Department and the police department. And we've got several council members that are also sitting kind of in that board directing how the program gets established. Upon annexation and zoning, you would see a development program once it's been generated, and you'll see it for review.
Does P-Public have any limitations to the project at all related to residential units inside of the buildings for staff? Are there any limitations for that programming of the use of a public service building in the P-Public zone district?
No, P-Public allows for normal public use uses, including PD and Public Works, but it also allows for accessory residential
Dwellings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other zoning options?
I mean, the other zoning option could be, industrial PUD, but staff felt that P-Public fits what the town wants to do for the site.
It's currently industrial, right?
It's currently not in the town, so it doesn't have a town zone.
But the adjacent property is industrial.
The adjacent property is industrial, yeah.
And how much affordable housing will you be providing?
That's still up for consideration as part of the establishment of the development program.
Any other questions, comments? It's pretty straightforward, right?
Yep.
Do you want a motion?
If we could please do the public hearing. Public hearing.
Okay, let's open up the public hearing at 9:03. Anybody online?
We don't have anybody online.
Then let's close the public hearing at 9:03. And now we can either have you okay? Discussion or take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Zone P it is.
For party.
And so, in terms of staff comments, your next meeting will be July 7th, and we'll have likely the continuation of Jadwin and the continuation of the hotel.
Will there be any other applications?
I don't
that
believe
I should set apart the entire night. Okay.
What do we
I don't believe so.
expect? Why, the hotel 2 weeks from now? Do you think that much is going to change? Right? It's 2 weeks. It's just fast, I feel like, to see them again. And that's just because they're asking for that? Or that's, because do we have to come up with what we're trying to propose?
We'll come up with draft conditions and come back with a draft ordinance. It's a large application, as you guys saw, and we had a lot to talk through today. So the hope was to get an introduction, to hear some of the neighbor comments and to be able to begin that discussion, hearing it from the horse's mouth, if you will, for the applicant, that gives them a little bit better idea of what they really need to address and, a willingness to come back to, address some of those things. So hopefully exterior lighting, traffic, we will be meeting with the applicant, to download this meeting and to discuss kind of next steps for them. They could come to that meeting and say, hey, we need more time, or they could come to that and be willing to include those as conditions, which then we move forward, whether or not we schedule a town council meeting.
We have to provide a date certain, and so, if they're not ready or staff is not ready at that meeting, then it can be continued forward.
I was going to ask, do you think you all will be ready based on the questions that we requested of you?
I think we could be, but, I think it's really up to the applicants whether they need more time.
Okay.
When you meet with them, I think that Kyle really had the prescient point where they're asking for a lot and they're not offering much, and I want to make sure that got conveyed to them.
Sure.
Yeah, I think staff might be able to offer some context at a later date on that.
Show them the application we just saw.
They've seen it. So.
I'd say staff's had some conversations outside of, the scope of the application regarding that. So they're aware.
What is the status of the Myers Steel property? Did that get approved by council, and how come it didn't come back to us first?
No, it hasn't been approved by the council. The council.
It went before council,
It went
right?
before council, and so council had some concerns. They primarily had concerns about the residential not being integrated with the storage. They were concerned about the storage itself, and there were concerns about traffic still and associated improvements. And so the applicant is looking at adjustments to the application, but they're not going back to council next week. They're continuing further.
Okay, so we're going to get to see it again too, because we've only seen it once, I think.
Well, no, it's one round of review with P&Z and council on their development actions that they require because they're in a PUD already. So it wouldn't come back to P&Z unless council directed it to go back to P&Z, which could be a possibility, but.
I felt like don't we usually see everything twice, kind of as a matter of course?
If you're establishing a new PUD or an annexation, a new PUD goes through 3 rounds of review with P&Z and council.
Okay, and they are asking for variances, as I recall, that doesn't.
They're going through an amendment to their current PUD.
So we might not see it again.
Yeah, similar to what Kyle's question was earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So what about, sorry to belabor it, but what about with the hotel? I mean, we'll obviously see it again because we didn't vote on anything, but then once we do, because it's not a new PUD, would we see it again or no? Do we just see it once?
It's one round of review with P&Z
Okay,
and council.
okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, one set of applications, 1 vote at P&Z and 2 at council.
Okay.
And if we vote to deny its approval, do they get to appeal to town council?
Your vote is a recommendation
Yeah.
to council, so council could still see it, yes, but it's a recommendation.
They can overturn us.
They still get
Council.
That is the only comments that I had.
I think I owed you all an explanation on the community development position. And so we have opened up, we are going to be restructuring a little bit over there, and we have opened up the planning director internally, and that is going to be due on this Friday. So the planning director has been kind of revamped as a position over there. As far as so the community development director also oversaw Brent, our arts and events manager, and I'm currently overseeing him and the town engineer, as well as our sustainability projects. So I'm taking that on for right now and reevaluating once we get our planning director in place.
So what happens on Friday?
That is when the position closes.
Gotcha.
And you'll be then overseeing town engineer and public works as well?
Yes, I do. I already.
You already oversee them. Okay.
Do you have applicants right now in that?
Yeah, so it's been opened up internally.
Oh, it's just, okay, you said that. Yep.
Anything else? And we can.
I have a couple staff updates for you guys.
Okay.
The Cliffs Hillside Park has advanced. We reviewed 90% set at post committee. So hoping to start construction on that and start ordering play equipment imminently. So that'll, we're looking at construction probably starting mid-July on that, beginning with the demo of the existing play structure there. So that's exciting. Looking at launching a survey on the land use code updates. So getting that back in front of you guys, that will likely launch the beginning of next week, but we'll be sure to post that all over the place, and you guys will hear about that at your next meeting when that goes live. We'll be doing a public outreach event at the library on the 8th of July, so we'll be sure to mention that on the 7th at our next planning and zoning meeting. And for fun things, the Basalt Summer Concert Series begins tomorrow evening in the park.
Oh.
With Palmyra and Sweet Jessup and the Dirty Buckets. So come on down. Any other fun stuff?
You know, it's late. I think we can let them go home.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Aye.
We'll call unanimous.